The NHL draft lottery has come and gone, and the Sabres will be officially picking 9th. For more on last night's lottery, we do have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. And the draft will get underway in just about a month and a half on June 27th in LA. The Islanders will have the first overall pick. We'll get more on this when Paul Hamilton joins the show at 6. Tonight, though, 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs, both game ones at 7. Washington has the Hurricanes in town. Then at 9:30, it's the Oilers versus the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. A note, though, from last night, Toronto goaltender Anthony Stolarz no longer in the hospital. Stolarz left yesterday's game 1 against Florida after taking an elbow to the head from Panthers' Sam Bennett. Bennett spoke with the media today saying he reached out to Stolarz and also gave his point of view on the incident.
I'm just taking the puck in the net. I didn't even know that we made contact until after. And I mean, I'm on the power play. I'm trying to score. I'm taking the puck in the net, and that's really all there was to it.
Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube has not ruled out Stolarz for Game 2 tomorrow, and Bennett is not expected to face any further discipline for the hit. 2 games in the NBA. Game 2 between Cavs and Pacers in Cleveland at 7. The Pacers do lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, it's Game 1 of Warriors-Timberwolves in Minnesota. Then in baseball, the Bisons, they're in Minnesota versus the Saints just after 7:30. That game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7. Then at about 9:40, the Mets are in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks. And the Blue Jays, they are in California versus the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I don't think that's a very good attitude.
It's Mike Schopp.
You don't think? You don't think? I don't think you should be butting in when I'm talking to my team. You're my assistant, okay? You're supposed to back me up and go get me juice boxes when I tell you. Now go get me a juice box. You know who you're talking to.
It's the Bulldog.
I'm talking to the juice box guy. You're crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty. Why don't you go to hell? No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box? I'm no juice box boy, I'll tell you that. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Yes, you
It's
are.
Mike
No, I'm not.
Schopp
You
and the
are.
Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
That's right. Both. You get both today. Until I bring up fantasy football and Bulldog leaves, looks for the next flight out, or you bring up, I don't know, some awful food take.
How tempting is that when you're walking through the airport? In this case, there was no rush to, late afternoon even flight. 1 o'clock, 1:30, check in, you're walking past gates with flights that are going to places like Munich.
Oh,
and
so this was not in Buffalo. I've never seen a Buffalo to Munich.
Should we just we got luggage already. We're
here.
We're here already. Might as well. It's always a little tempting.
I do love to look at the other locations.
Just let it roll.
Destinations.
Yeah.
But
this was tough. This terminal we were in Denver was like, Hartford maybe, Atlanta on one side, and then,
international?
Berlin,
Yeah.
Brisbane. I don't know if there's Brisbane, actually. That'd be really far. But it was
possible.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
I've never done anything spontaneous at an airport. I do, not as much anymore, but I would, used to fantasize about it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even just like going to the airport and buying a ticket.
Right.
Can you do that anymore?
I don't know. It's been a very long time since I've tried.
Just sort of shop, browse around.
Yeah.
You look at that big board with the times and everything, and just like, what do you think?
Now you got to do everything yourself, even before you get to the counter. And I don't know, it still seems like you got to go to the counter anyway, at least if you're checking a bag.
Yeah.
Why am I doing all the junk in your app to begin with? Because I'm still going to show up here with my passport, and you're going to look at me and go, okay, I accept you are who you say you are. Thank you for the bag. So I don't know, why am I checking in early if all I'm going to do is go do the same process anyway?
When did that Real ID start? Did you get in before that?
Well,
last week?
We travel with our passports, so the passport is
you don't need
a
both.
suitable replacement for So,
but that did like just start.
Yeah,
right?
I saw a news conference today about the new screening, and you got to have this or that. So, the first time I ever heard about that, I didn't. It took a while. The story I happened to be reading went on for a while about how important you're going to need to have this if you're going to want to do this and this and this, and it like 8 paragraphs in the story. By the way, if you currently have a up-to-date passport, you're fine. Like, oh, thank you.
Yep.
That seems like an important detail you might want to inform everyone of, that I'm all set if I have a passport.
You're here to do it right now.
Right.
Well, you didn't miss a ton. The Bills discourse is kind of the same.
Great.
I know. I'm very self-conscious about it now. Yesterday, one of my first thoughts about the day was, all right, what can I do Bills-wise that isn't about who their wide receivers are or aren't? And then Elijah Moore did media.
That was that.
So that was that.
Right.
And we talked about him and that whole thing again.
Right.
I was thinking about this, though. All the back and forth on whether they need more at receiver, is that really why they're not winning championships? What is it all worth? If it needs to be said, I guess maybe it doesn't, but the underlying question with all this offense versus defense, where you use draft capital, free agency, everything like that, is like, will the idea, what's the thesis here by the Bills? It's, okay, well, our defense needed more help. Nobody would really disagree with that. Let's just push in as hard as we can toward that. Multiple defensive tackles, multiple defensive backs, Joey Bosa, Michael Hoyt, Ogunjobi. Let's just, anything possible that we can do, we will do it. Will it work? The back and forth continues on, does Josh Allen need more weapons? Maybe. It's debatable. The defense argument isn't really like, did the defense need help? Because most people would have said yes. The question about that is it going to work? Is it worth it to pour that kind of effort and money into defense? Either way you want to go, you're still already this good. You're still already,
right.
AFC semifinalist. But that's really like it on the whole thing is, maybe they don't need more offensive talent. Maybe they do. But is the idea of pouring all that kind of investment into defense worth it? That's, I think, what the question is. And then, well, what does worth it mean? Does it mean winning the division again? Because that's maybe already there?
It's got to make a difference when you get to that moment in the fourth quarter of a game against the Chiefs, where presumably you need to stop them so you get the ball back and score, something that the Bills did manage to do these last 2 years in these playoff losses, but still couldn't get it done. It's part of the reason why I feel like, yes, of course, add to your defense. You need to get better. The depth-wise, starter-wise, impact-wise, you didn't have a legitimately great idea, if even a good idea, to start at corner opposite Benford. So, okay, I understand what you're doing. I just think there's a lot of overreacting to it. And I've made this point numerous times, not right after the Super Bowl, because after the Super Bowl, I was right there with everybody. Like, oh, see, it can be done. Look what that team did to the Chiefs that we can't seem to manage to do. And that's alluring. That's like, oh, I guess I should have thought of that. We already did probably 3 or 4 years earlier when they drafted defensive ends, with their first 2 picks in the draft after losing in the AFC title game there. And so we got to do what Philly did. The problem is Philly was drafting a couple of those guys are high picks that they got in trades that a team as good as them normally wouldn't have gotten their hands on. And, sure, there's their share of guys that just sort of showed up and had an impact and won reps in the Super Bowl and did a great job. They pounded KC in a way that, I don't need style points. I need to beat them. And I'm not losing to them by this huge margin, despite whatever inefficiencies I've got on defense, or worse, flat-out deficiencies, if you want to call them that. The gap has never been that big between me and the Chiefs. So I don't know, this idea that I'm going to put a defense on the field that's suddenly going to be able to do what Philadelphia did to them, I think is really far-fetched. In one off season, it's just not going to work. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be building towards something, but I just don't know that the thing about the receiver is it's not so much to have a guy to impact this year. I mean, that'd be great, but it wasn't realistic if you were drafting a guy on Friday or even Saturday in the draft, is to get something else in the pipeline. Ideally, something that could develop into a high-end guy while he's still on a rookie contract. So I don't have to pay the going market rate of $35 million if I want a number one receiver. I get him and I develop him, and then I decide if I want to pay him. And, let's see the case. But you don't even have the guy in the program, then, you hope that that's going to be Keon Coleman, who was a highly drafted guy last year, but it should not have prohibited you from doing more. In my opinion. So that's really the crux of it. It's not so much, I wanted a guy that was going to make them better right now. Because I don't know that I would maybe side with Bean on that. With the way he came across 2 weeks ago now, last week, Monday.
Last Monday.
That, you weren't going to unseat somebody, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be trying at a higher rate than pick whatever that 7th-round guy was. 240. Thank you.
Caden Prather.
So that's all there is.
I had to ask Sally yesterday his name.
Yeah.
What did we talk about in May 2 years ago about them? What did we talk about? Like right now, like I mentioned already today, I'm so self-conscious about the receiver stuff because we're doing it all the time, and I'm not even sure how relevant it is. Just how relevant is the receiver thing? We've had the argument. What did we talk about 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
Diggs himself?
Well, sure, because that is we're coming up on that whenever mandatory minicamp is. That's mid-May or something, maybe after the schedule, whatever. We get there, or that was June maybe, but still, it was him. He's here, he's not here, like that whole thing. That was around this time 2 years ago.
So that happened.
Maybe a little later than now, but still close.
That's right. Whenever it was, that happened, and we discussed, it was kind of heated, like, what did that all mean? Why is McDermott not so forthcoming about Diggs, and where's Diggs' head? And we're reading his tweets, right?
Right.
And we're sort of trying to figure out everything he says. But that's just all sort of guessing and, back and forth on whether there's a problem or not. And then he shows up for training camp and gives his speech that everybody in the media gave him so much credit for because it was just like being honest and, how much he loved playing for the Bills and how much he loved Josh Allen and all of that. And then what could you do with it? That was kind of it. Like you couldn't sit here after that and be like, no, I don't believe him. So yeah, we did have him. But was there anything else? Like as far as the makeup of the Bills was, or as far as it went, what was it that we weren't, like, what was the problem? Was there a problem? Was there an issue other than, like, his personality 2 years ago? Because when he was here, then we didn't look at wide receiver. What wide receiver was then was kind of what you said, but it was definitely, just sort of down the list. Draft somebody and maybe you can find a star, but it wasn't like that person was ever going to be like meaningful on the team, as a rookie. Mm-hmm. It was more just about the longer term, I guess. And what did you have? You had Emmanuel Sanders on the team and, veterans being brought in or brought back out of retirement even to fill those roles. That was the wide receiver thing, was how about somebody young that maybe can be his successor?
Exactly. And also on the lower end of that, even a potential Davis replacement, because you were, by then you're already looking at the finish line there. At least I was like, sure, anything could have changed it, but even off of the incredible performance in the divisional round loss, at the end of the 21 season from Davis, I was not ready to commit a long-term thing to him. I always thought I'm going to need someone to be better than that, and that I don't want to pay what the market's going to bear for him. So there was always, that's trace the credibility of wanting receivers. There's almost always a reason.
Yeah, we'll find one. Well, Will the defense investment pay off? The Bills scored 30 points a game, a total of 525. I'm not saying that isn't good, by the way, by my tone there. I get in trouble for my tone. 525 points last year in 17 games. One of 32 teams in the Super Bowl era to reach 500 points in a season. Brandon Beane, in his interview with Tyler Dunn last week, mentioned how Carolina, when he was in Carolina, did that. They were 500 on the nose. In 16 games that year, they're also one of the 32 teams to do it. The 2020 Bills did it. And you have teams more recently, Baltimore twice, that have hit 500 points. What did their defense rank? Kind of teens last year? If they're right, like they picked the right guys with the right approach in this draft, and they sort of just like everything Beane wanted out of this draft, he got. And when it comes to wide receiver, he's like, we didn't need that. We got Josh Palmer, so we didn't need that, which that's going to go down in the annals, I think, if Palmer doesn't, become a different player than he's been in the league. But anyway, like if they are able to elevate the defense like significantly, you've got the possibility of just like an all-time great team. Because what Allen affords you is that, offensively, that potential. And, again, I'm saying if he's right. We didn't need Luther Burden. We didn't need whoever the top free agent would have been. Like, there really wasn't a great name for that. Mm-hmm. And, they show up this season, and TJ Sanders is a prodigy, and Maxwell Hairston is ready to start, like, right away. And he doesn't have that hard of a job because they're getting pressure up the middle and on the edge, and just everything's perfect.
Landon Jackson.
Yeah, just like if everything sort of happens.
Hits the beach.
For them.
Right.
I mean, this is sometimes true, but not always with a team. Like, you don't have as high a ceiling as they do. If they get it right in this one, if Beane is right on this one, they'll be incredible. And I talked about yesterday how with the schedule, my focus on the schedule is those big home games. But, Warren Sharp had a thing where, like, they play the fifth easiest schedule in the league. The 6 games in the division, the Browns, the NFC South, like, that's 11 games out of 17. Right. That, like, the best team in there from last year is Tampa. So take Tampa out if you want, because they were in the playoffs. That's 10 games against teams that were not in the playoffs. So,
Yeah, you can get intimidated looking at the caliber of the marquee opponents, but the rest of it is, you should be able to, even if you really have a tough time with those top teams, you still should be able to get it done.
And those are all home games.
Right.
Last year they went to Baltimore. They went to Houston. This year, again, they go to Houston. But I think if that were week 1, the Bills would be favored in that game in Houston.
I do too.
Who would they not? The other big games are home games. Who would they not be favored against in week 1? Is there a team that they wouldn't be favored against? I don't think so. If they went to Pittsburgh or Cleveland, no. If they go to Houston, I think no.
All right. You have to eliminate Philadelphia because
Philadelphia's here. Oh, well, that's right.
They can't come
What's
here.
What's the spread if they were at the Bills week 1? Eagles are favored?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
2 maybe.
That's probably right. I think I agree with that. But you're right. That can't be the game.
Right. So that's eliminated. The rest of it, you would at home. I think both Baltimore and Kansas City are games you would, if it were week 1, I think you'd be favored in.
Maybe not the Ravens.
You think?
Maybe not. Close.
Having beaten them in the playoffs like they did and lost to Kansas City, I feel like Kansas City might be the tighter one, but that doesn't have to be right.
Well, the difference, as I see it, the Bills have beaten the Chiefs 4 years in a row in the regular season, and last year at home, I don't know. I think they would be a small favorite. The Ravens were favored in the playoff game, and I think most people's takeaway from the playoff game would be that the Bills were lucky to beat Baltimore. 3 turnovers to none. Mm-hmm. Didn't force a punt. Andrews drop. Andrews fumble. Not to double count that. They might be favored here. Is there any chance we'll get that game? Could that be week 1?
I wouldn't rule out Sunday night, week 1. That game. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, you're talking about the last 2 MVPs.
Yep.
Talking about a playoff rematch, but it's not like the gaudiest one because it's not from the championship game, but it's still pretty tasty.
Not only the last 2 MVPs, but they both finished second each of the last 2 years.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Allen was second to Jackson and vice versa.
Right. That is right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't rule that out. It's one of those games that, if we were discussing this in a different context, you might say it's too good for week 1, but I wouldn't want to rule it out.
Well, that's cool. That would be amazing. I've liked that game at New England for week 1, thinking about whether Diggs would play. But we won't know for a while. I'm ready for the quote dribs and drabs.
How's your schedule sheet doing?
I had a thought today to do another one. Maybe I will. This is the last one I've done, and I don't think it's perfect.
There's a lot more writing on there than there was when I was last here, and I was only gone. I only missed 2 shows.
So much writing.
I only missed Friday and Monday, and I'm back already. And there's a lot of words there.
I still haven't decided where to put the bye week. But you do have the 4. Sal and I talked about this yesterday. The 4 marquee home games: Ravens, Bengals, Chiefs, Eagles. I kind of think will end up being spread out on the schedule. Like on this one, the stars indicate those 4 games. Okay. Also, the names of the teams do. But because
I like how you did that,
they're all so big that putting them within 2 weeks together or something like that seems, I don't know, like the networks might want to, showcase those games. Maybe the Bengals one isn't as big as I'm making it out to be. To me, it's on the same tier.
I think it should be. Yeah,
because the playoff game, Hamlin and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's a team that the Bills haven't figured out yet. Say what you want about whether Baltimore was unlucky to lose here. They did lose, and they lost the other time in the playoffs here. So, well, that's next Wednesday.
Yeah. I hope you're right about the spacing it out. Last year, there's a bye week after the first of these, but they played in consecutive weeks. Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions.
That's right. The gauntlet.
I feel like 2023, there's that Eagles game and there's a Chiefs game like that. That's kind of similar to that, where it's Eagles, bye week, Chiefs, Dallas, and then the Chargers. That doesn't really rate, but anyway, I would say in 2023, Eagles, Chiefs, Dallas were certainly 3 of the biggest marquee games they had on their schedule. 2 of them were on the road, but still they played those 3 games in a row.
That's right. These being all home games makes that different for me. Yep. But you could have 2 a couple of weeks apart. I don't know about back-to-back, but you certainly could. No rule against it. Looking at the quarterbacks, we don't know who they'll face when they face Cleveland or Pittsburgh. Might depend on when you play them. Early in the season, you get Joe Flacco, maybe Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. Late in the season, you get Shadur Sanders, or you get Will Howard even for the Steelers.
Right.
You play a bad team in December, you might expect the rookie to be on the field. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, not so.
The Rodgers thing is still
nothing.
But it's not definitively dead.
No, I think it's the same.
Wow. Yes, it's May, right?
Let me check. Who do I have to? Who will know? Who can I call?
That's incredible. That is an incredible thing.
So today, right next, we'll talk to Matt Verderam, who covers the Chiefs. Has been on our show a number of times. Paul Hamilton will join us late in the show. Another great hockey game last night with some controversy. The goalie injured and then taking ill, and when was he concussed, and was it maybe even more than once in the game? Today you're getting the predictable stuff. He's not ruled out, and Sam Bennett, for his part, says, I didn't mean to do it.
No league discipline.
No league discipline.
No penalty on the play, no league discipline to follow.
I had a beauty of a question yesterday. I got to ask Bulldog that Blues question, don't I? Oh, baby. Let's get that in early because that could take the rest of the day.
Blues, the musical genre, or blues like the hockey team?
I'm not going to tell you right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Just leave it out there.
I want to be. I hope the audience enjoys being left hanging.
It might be both.
Good.
It might be both. It actually kind of is. It actually kind of is both. All right, so stay tuned for all of that and more. Next, Matt Verderam talking the Chiefs and the AFC. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Welcome back. The NFL draft is over. The schedule release is just over a week away. Be a very memorable, important, sentimental season for the Bills in that their stadium is going into its last year, which makes, I think, sort of imagining the schedule that much more fun and interesting. The Chiefs are on it. Again, that's the law now, that they have to play. Even twice a year now, that's the law. The Bills and the Chiefs become quite a rivalry. On the Chiefs and more, joining us now on the West Her Hotline is Matthew Ryan Verderam. I don't want to be creepy, but I just looked at your Twitter and I saw the Rick Pitino tweet, Matt, and so that's your name. And Rick Pitino, he had a grandson with that name. So, Matt, you were, the kid's got off to a great start, it seems, with that name.
Yeah, well, depending on who you're asking. It could be a good start. It could be the worst start possible. But I saw that, had a little fun with it. The first tweet somebody responded, they were like 28-3. Like, hey, man, I didn't lose the game. But, things happen.
Matt Ryan, that's right. Took me a second. Well, again, Matt, the draft is over, and the Chiefs and Bills, not exactly connected like, last year when the teams traded and the Chiefs ended up taking Xavier Worthy with the pick. Both teams kind of drafting for need here, although in Buffalo, and this was fueled by the general manager of the Bills coming on WGR and kind of, making a spectacle of how, he's tired of the criticism about what he hasn't done at wide receiver. Jalen Royals, for me, in the Bills draft, the only room I have that would feel right to be critical about this point is like round 4, where, you needed defensive players. You got them. Wasn't exactly the best year for receiver. Didn't fall into your lap.
Right.
Royals is in Kansas City, and here we go. Like already this week, they're on the field, and, some people are excited about him. Are you?
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. He's 6 foot. He's 205 pounds. He's got a little bit of a return game in him, although I don't know that the Chiefs will use him. They have a decent returner now in Remigio. But, the Chiefs, there was a thought that they might take a receiver fairly early, probably day 2, potentially day 1 if everything broke right, but it didn't. To play behind Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Browns there for a 1-year deal, and they need new depth. And so, Royals is an interesting guy. I thought they might take him at 63 or 66. I thought that was probably the sweet spot for him. And when they didn't take him there, I said, okay, well, they're not going to get him. And then they passed on him again. And I thought, I guess they just really don't fight the receiver. And then he was still there in the 4th round. I said, okay, fine, I'll take him. He'll, this year, I think his ceiling is probably the 4th receiver on the team, unless there's injuries that there could be, or a suspension, which there could be. I think of all their picks, they had some pretty good value throughout the draft. I think he was probably the best value in terms of where they took him and where most people expected he'd be taken.
You mentioned possible suspensions impacting things. Where as you know it, as we're talking right now, Matt, where do things stand with Rashee Rice?
Nothing's changed, to my knowledge. It's been very bizarre, and of course, when you're getting into the law and courts, that stuff can be very bizarre. But he was charged last year with 8 felonies, resulting in an alleged video of some of it, like a hit and run down in Texas, where he was traveling at a very high rate of speed, and since then everything's kind of been a limbo. To my knowledge, there's been no court dates. There's been obviously no plea bargain. It's just kind of sitting there. And so, look, the NFL didn't take action last year. He played. He got hurt in week 4. He's out for the year. He looks to be on schedule to be back for the season. Might be back for training camp. The question now becomes, does anything move legally? If it doesn't, they may wait another year to suspend him, or they may not. I would imagine at some point they have to. But they might sit there and say, look, until there's some movement on the legal side of things,
right,
we're just going to kind of wait it out.
What do you think, dare I ask, because here we are in Buffalo talking about wide receivers all the time, and it's sort of become an obsession. What is your opinion of the importance of the position? Because both the Bills and the Chiefs, I think, really test you on this. I mean, they both have the great quarterback. They both have, either won championships or, won, in the Bills' case, 5 straight division titles, tons of success. 30 points a game last year, but both teams kind of did it without obvious answers at receiver. The Chiefs have Travis Kelce, although he's, old now, but still, productive and important. Did the Chiefs or the Bills tell an important tale about just maybe whether the position is overrated or just what its importance is?
I think the Chiefs and the Bills are major outliers in the sense that as great as Lamar Jackson is, I think he needs a Zay Flowers. He needs really good tight ends. We saw him earlier in his career, and he was great. But when they had really poor receivers, his passing numbers were not particularly good. If Joe Burrow, for me, is a great player. And he hurts sometimes, but he's great when he's on the field. What does Joe Burrow look like with the Bills receiving core or the Chiefs receiving core? It's probably not like what he looks like with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I still think he would be good, but would he be leading the league in passing? I don't know. Allen and Mahomes, to me, are on their own stratosphere. They're in their own stratosphere. They're on their own tier, where those two guys could play with all of us and win 12 games. It's just they're going to make plays. Obviously, Allen's more of a running threat than Mahomes is, but Mahomes runs when he needs to. They make throws that most people would just be taught don't ever even attempt that, but they do it, and they do it all the time. So I think for teams like the Chiefs and the Bills, I understand the Bills fan who sits there and says, hey, I want a number one receiver. I want a Stephon Diggs in his prime without the drama type of guy. Great, I get that. The Bills can win the Super Bowl with Khalil Shakir as the number one receiver. They can. I watched the Chiefs win a Super Bowl with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Believe me, it's possible. You can do it. The Bills have not lost in recent years in the playoffs because they didn't have a number one receiver. They've lost in the playoffs because they can't rush the quarterback against Kansas City. It's killed them. Every time they have lost to the Chiefs in the playoffs, it has been because their pass rush has not showed up. And if they get a pass rush next January and they play, they'll beat them. Then if they don't, they won't. And it's going to be the same thing until they get a pass rush.
How is this offseason gone for the Chiefs, considering maybe how humbling, although maybe it's just getting boring, to get knocked around like they did in the Super Bowl? Yeah. Was there overreaction to that? Maybe underreaction? Like, what's the temperature there? And where do the Bills fit into it, if anywhere? Is it like we're like the little brother for Chiefs fans, or is there like, oh no, I'd hate to see that team again?
No, listen, I would tell you, for SI, I cover the league nationally, but as I'm sure even a lot of people listening, I came up covering the Chiefs, and I would tell you the Bills are the one team that Chiefs fans respect. They are the one team in the AFC that I think Chiefs fans look at and are like, all right, if they play the Bills in a playoff game, you got to buckle up because Allen can beat them. Allen is the one quarterback that when they square off, the Chiefs don't have a decided advantage at the position. Now, you want to sit there and argue about which guy's better, whatever, fine. But both of them are so dominant that you can do – I mean, look at – now, listen, not to bring up a sore subject in Buffalo, but look at that play that Allen made on that 4th and 5. I mean, he's got 3 free rushers in his face. And it's a tough catch for Kincaid, but it's a play that Allen put him in position to make. As far as the offseason for the Chiefs, I think the offseason's been fine. Like they lost Justin Reed, which is meaningful, but they really like Jaden Hicks, so that's why they let him go. They brought back Bolton, who's kind of the quarterback of the defense. I think his value is more cerebral than physical, honestly, to them. They brought in Christian Fulton. They needed another body at corner, and he'll fit fine. He'll allow McDuffie to kick inside, which is really the biggest value he brings to them. And then they really threw bodies at the tackle position. They brought in Jalen Moore. They brought in Josh Simmons with a first-round pick. They traded Tooney and they kicked Kingsley Showmate inside, which is going to be a downgrade. How much of one we're going to find out, but you're losing Joe Tooney. It's going to be a downgrade. But they're getting Rice and Hollywood Brown back, and they basically missed those guys all year long last season. So I think there's a thought that offensively they're more explosive. Defensively, they're probably about the same. I don't think there's going to be a huge difference. But, it was fun. I covered that game in New Orleans for SI, and my assignment was to go down to the Chiefs locker room and kind of paint the picture. And I kind of expected guys to be furious. They really weren't. It was silent. It was a combination of being very disappointed and very tired. Yeah. They just looked like a team that they were just spent by the end of that game.
Yeah. Matt Verderam, our guest here on the West Shore Hotline, SI, KC Sports Network, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. It's not been the norm in the NFL to have, mostly anyway, teams just lord over divisions like the Chiefs and the Bills have done. The last 2 years, the AFC's had the same 4 division winners and same 4 second-round teams, divisional round teams. Meanwhile, the NFC East hasn't had a team win 2 in a row since 2003 or something like that, which is incredible. Would you be surprised, Matt, if this changed in the AFC in 2025? Either Buffalo or Kansas City gets beat, or someone we just have never seen do it, get in there and enter the conversation to win the conference?
I would be shocked if you told me Allen and Mahomes are healthy. I would be shocked if one of those other 6 teams in those 2 divisions even approach winning the division. I just don't see. I think. Look, maybe I'm on a limb with this. I think New England's the second best team in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I think May's going to be good, and I think Vrabel's a real coach. The Dolphins, to me, are just on the way down. The Jets are rebuilding. And in the West, the Raiders are. Look, you take them more seriously because of Carroll and Geno Smith, but they're not ready to win. The Chargers, I think it's kind of inertia. They're basically the same team, with obviously Palmer and Bosa now in Buffalo. And the Broncos are the one you wonder, do they get better in Bo Nix's second year, or is that one of these things where we're watching Bo Nix in his second year and he looks like Mac Jones in his second year? So, right. I don't know. I kind of tend to err on the side of I think they'll be good. I don't think they'll be great. It was actually funny. Right before we were doing this, I was sitting down doing the AFC predictions for the magazine, for the NFL preview for us for a couple of months, and I worked right through it and just immediately got to Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC Championship game. And just sat there, and I still haven't figured out. I'm like, I don't know. Who knows? I mean,
right.
It just feels like those 2 teams are the best teams. Baltimore's there, but Baltimore's never going to show up in the playoffs, or at least hasn't. And it feels like it's Allen and Mahomes, and my God, how many times have they played each other now? It feels like, it was like the part 10, part 11?
Yeah.
And there's that game. They can just fast forward to the last 2 minutes of the game, and then we'll just see who wins. And that's what it feels like in the AFC right now. It feels a lot like when Manning and Brady did this for a long time. It was just those guys were going to be there, and who was going to win the big game in January.
I think it's 9. I think 2020, including playoffs, twice, once, twice, the last 5 years.
It's incredible.
It is kind of. And it doesn't, usually work like that, but I think, you talked about it, Matt. The big difference is probably the competition in the division. I think even Vegas is interesting with what they've done, and they're not going to slow play a rebuild there, are they?
No, they can't.
That's not what's happening at all with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, even Geno. So I don't know. I give them some. I think they'll be interesting at least.
I think they're better. Look, they went from Antonio Pierce and whatever they were doing at quarterback last year to Geno Smith and Pete Carroll and. Brady's in that building. He'll have some professionalism. I know he's not the majority owner or anything, but he'll be there, and he has say in it. Spytek comes over as a GM from Tampa, and he's a respected guy in the league. I think, look, the thing that is going to be intriguing about that division is, again, like Denver and the Chargers, the buy them is better. I thought the Chargers going into the offseason, I looked at them and said, okay, they've got a lot of money under the cap. They have the quarterback. They have the coach. I expect them to be aggressive. They did nothing. If you look at what the Chargers did in the offseason, the Chargers lost Bosa, for whatever that's worth to you. Maybe you'll love him, maybe you don't really care, but he's gone. They lose Christian Fulton. They lost Asante Samuel Jr. They lost Joshua Palmer, and they barely replaced any of these guys. So it's a very weird dynamic. I think the West is certainly deeper than the East because I think the Jets are clearly the worst team out of the 2 divisions. But, if you said to me, are the Chiefs and the Bills going to win, are they more likely to each win 10 games or 13 games? They're more likely to go 13-4. And I think when they play each other in Buffalo, whoever wins that game is probably the 1 seed. Because if you look at Baltimore's schedule, that schedule is brutal. That is one of the hardest road schedules I've ever seen a team have.
That is incredible. It is incredible that last year, as you talk about this upcoming year, the Bills did all that. They rolled.
And
they beat
close.
Kansas City. But the Chiefs had such a dream trip, like in horse racing, where just winning all these close games, sometimes against bad teams. And how could we expect the Bills to have done anything more last year than than they did. I mean, they lost 3 games until the Week 18 game where they rested everybody.
Right.
And it still wasn't enough to even tie. So kind of incredible.
It was. It was one of those years, too, where the Chiefs just kind of had a horseshoe in a certain area where it's just anything that could go. I mean, they had 2 games where one game was decided by them blocking a field goal.
Yeah.
And then another game was decided a month later by them kicking a field goal that banked in off an upright.
Yeah.
I mean, they just had the hard thing, and this is really, I got to say, it's a credit to the Bills. And it really is a discredit to the Chiefs in one regard. The Bills, despite all the success that they've had, and maybe it's the Super Bowl still out there and all these things, they, a lot of times when they play bad teams, it feels like they hammer them. The Bills do not leave it to chance with 2 minutes to go against a lot of these poor teams. And, of course, it happens sometimes, but it's rare. The Chiefs almost, you can just see it. Like, they're just bored. They don't – I don't want to say they don't care. They certainly care, but they will play with their food for 59 minutes. They look – like they played the Panthers last year, and it took everything they had to beat Carolina. But they just, but then they got the ball and they had 30 seconds and Mahomes scrambled for 40 yards or whatever it was. And but they just sleep. They don't. If you look at the Chiefs schedule and you want to try to find the loss, look for when they play the Titans at noon in Week 8. And they will just not even show up for that. They won't care. It doesn't matter. Then they'll play Detroit and beat them by 25 points, because they'll be awake for that game. But it's almost gotten to the point of the Chiefs where it's almost like, okay, well, call me in January. Who are they playing? Where are they playing them? They'll be awake for those games. But it's a challenge for them, I think, to be on their game every week more than it is for most teams.
Matt, in talking about both of these divisions and how the Bills and Chiefs have been lording over them, I agree with how you look at the AFC East here. I think New England is, in my opinion at this point, on May 6th, the second best team in the division. I think Miami is going the wrong way now, and the Jets are still at, the place that they've often been, which is trying to figure out which way is up. How soon do you think New England can get right? Because I also like May, and I think Vrabel's an excellent coach. I even like McDaniels there running the offense again. But is it too soon for them to, be a wild card contender even?
I think they can contend for a wild card. I think, the way I look at the AFC, to me, it's Kansas City and Buffalo. Then it's maybe a half step down. It's Baltimore, and then you get into, even though Houston can't block anybody, I still think they're a good team. And then after that, it's like, okay, do you like Pittsburgh? Do you like Cincinnati? Do you like Denver? Do you like the Chargers? Do you like New England? I mean, I think it's like those 5 teams for 3 spots, and of course, somebody's going to surprise, and it probably won't be the Jets. But it'll be those teams will fight in there. But I don't think New England can seriously put a charge into the Bills for at least another year. And it might even be a couple more years. I mean, New England is coming from a place where they were pretty bereft of talent for a couple of years there. But Vrabel's a real coach. May is a real quarterback. If they can draft well, and I like their draft this year, I think they did pretty well. If they can do that for a few years, then I think maybe you get to a point where you look at them and go, okay, New England could win 11 games, and if they split with the Bills or something, maybe there's a world where they can sneak in. But I think they're still a year or two away from really, challenging the Bills in a meaningful way.
Matt, quickly before you go, you said you're working on the preview for Sports Illustrated. When will that come out?
That's the August magazine. So we're busy putting that together right now, doing stories on it. In the meantime, God knows, go to SI.com. We have a ton of stuff. I got a couple pieces coming out in the AFCs next week. There's no shortage of content, and my God, the day the schedule comes out, I have a running blog of just everything that's happening that day, plus all these predictions at the end of it. So if you want to go to SI.com or my Twitter feed, they can certainly find all of it.
Trying to put the schedule together, you mean, during the day?
Basically, yeah, a jigsaw puzzle. It's
Me too.
Yeah, it's all about not getting screwed over by the wrong person.
Right.
Because all you need is one game in Week 8 that's wrong, and it's chaos.
Making sure you're not retweeting Adam Schefter or something.
Yeah, reaching out to every GM in the league and they're like, "Hey, is this right?" And then hopefully getting a response.
There it is. Thanks for your time as always, Matt.
Hey, you got it, guys. Anytime.
Matt Verderam, SI and the KC Sports Network. I'm feeling inspired.
New sheet?
New sheet.
There it is.
I'm using up a lot of these back pages this way, but it's worth it. For this,
What else are you going to do with them?
for this, it's worth it. Yep.
I never even really got to see the one that you're already throwing in the trash.
Well, that's great art for you.
Yeah, that's right.
You know,
right.
you just start over.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You take ideas from different people
Make them your own.
and just, put your spin on them. That's what we're going to do. Making the schedule. Always I'm asking, but if you've got out there a hope for the schedule, week 1, how the season ends, the last season at the stadium, any of these other games, night games, too many night games lately? Are you hoping for fewer? Whatever it is, 803-0550 is the number. Still here going over the Bills draft and just whether they did the right things. We'll get into some Sabres and NHL playoff talk as well. The Sabres are just going to sit tight, maybe? Is that surprising to anyone? Is it good news to anyone? I don't know. I never know where to start with them. Paul Hamilton will join us.
Don't know what to say right now.
At 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Lines are open for you. This is WGR.
I mean, I'm on the power play. I'm trying to score. I'm taking the puck to the net, and that's really all there was to it.
Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube has not ruled out Stolarz for Game 2 tomorrow, and Bennett is not expected to face any discipline from the league. 2 games in the NBA tonight. Game 2 between the Cavs and the Pacers in Cleveland at 7. Pacers do lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, it's Game 1 of Warriors Timberwolves. That game will be in Minnesota. And then in baseball, the Bisons, they're in Minnesota versus the Saints. That game will get started just after 7:30 and will be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7 o'clock. Then at about 9:40, the Mets are in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks, and the Blue Jays are out in California to take on the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Everything was neat. All the chairs were tucked in. It was fine. I didn't have to move anything, and I just walked through and came back. And then just now, I got up and walked around, did the same loop, and there were like 10 chairs as askew in there as I've ever seen. I don't understand. Like, what happened to those chairs?
It's Mike Schopp
I don't know. What would make the most sense?
and the Bulldog.
I am shook by this. Honest to God, I do not understand what just happened.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Did you go down there during a break and move the chairs?
I've been doing it every day.
It was me all along. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. We've got that Leafs-Panthers stuff to, we could debate that. And the Sabres, right?
Sure. Yeah. Debate.
Debate.
We're going to debate the Sabres.
Yeah. Well, you have Paul coming on later.
Yeah. I think you should be able to just suspend someone for that you're just highly suspicious of them being a dirtbag. Because that's really where we end up with Bennett.
Slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope. And with that, you would surely make some mistakes. And look, I can't tell you for sure that he's not, well, I know watching the footage, he's not like nodding and winking at you while he's talking about how friendly he is with this guy. And I texted him and he responded. And of course, I'm not trying to hurt him. We won a cup together last year. I don't know if he actually said that, but that's what happened factually. I think all of that can be true. And while the game is going on, you're there and just, I got an opportunity here. I was going to take it. We're friends. Whatever. We're playing in the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. This guy's been fantastic for this team. I'm just going to go ahead and elbow him in the head like I did to Marchand last year or 2 years ago, or like I did to Matthew Nyes 2 years ago. Like, I'm just going to do this thing that I'm somewhat now notorious for doing.
He has rewritten his reputation from the guy who couldn't do one chin-up at the combine.
Right.
In Buffalo.
Right. So, look, I appreciate what he is as a player and the value of having a guy that will go to that line and then across that line, ideally in this situation, and actually not get punished. There is value in any sport, particularly hockey, of having a guy that can play that way, especially if they can get away with it. I just feel like at some point you have to look at them and go, yeah, dude, this is enough. So I'm not retroactively suspending you for these other hits, but kind of that's what's happening here. But
that's not what actually happened.
No, that is not actually happening. But if the league chose that course, I don't know, it would probably be very hard to defend. Otherwise, maybe they would go there, but I have no question the guy did it on purpose. I believe that they could be friends. I think you could hit your friend like that, especially I've hit my friends like that playing pickup sports.
Yeah, you don't expect them to be violently ill from it. Like right. You're not really playing that out in your head, right? I mean, far be it for me to know, but I think in the course of a playoff game, especially in the NHL, you see lots of liberties taken, and it's not about whether somebody's going to get hurt. It's about, getting an edge. What is all the stuff in front of the net after every, whistle about? you think you're going to get an edge from it. You think, if I'm that much tougher this time, there's that much greater chance that the guy's not coming back in here next time. Like, that's the only logic of it.
Or at least not as fast and ready as the prior time. Yeah, that's it.
I might be able to sneak this little shot in and improve our chances of scoring on this play. Just, you didn't see it. And I don't think it ever really necessarily goes past that. It's just to get an edge on a play, in a game, in a series, and injuries happen. I guess it's good for you if it ends up there, but not in a personal sense.
Yeah. I think there's also the dilemma. I mean, who knows what's really going on here? Like, I mean, I know he threw up. That's irrefutably true. I mean, he went to the bench and threw up. Now, that was minutes after that collision. And he also, Stolarz, this is the Toronto goalie, got hit in the buckle on the strap of his helmet broke loose in the first period on a high shot by Sam Reinhart, I believe. And so that's the kind of thing that could maybe he just plowed through that. He wasn't spotted by the concussion protocol people to be pulled out of the game at that point. Also was not pulled from the game after this collision. Again, eventually there's a TV timeout. He got tended to by trainers, but stayed in the game. And then a few minutes later, he's at the bench throwing up, and it's time for the backup goalie. Like, that's it. So all of that could have the shot in the first period right through this thing, because a part of this too is it's not the most. It doesn't look like the most concussion-inducing blow you've ever seen. It's a pretty subtle shot, and it's hard to discern really how hard it even is. But
the ones that look, you never know, like you're saying. But the ones that look the most dangerous are when a player hits his head on the ice, not gets bumped in the head. But we all have tons of examples of how there's just not a necessary correlation between the severity of what the play looks like and the extent of the injury. I was thinking, almost definitely he probably was on some level dealing with an important head injury on the shot earlier in the game. And then this happens and it compounds. I think it might be safe to make some assumptions here. What's depressing to me is all these years, whenever it started, we know Tim Connolly happened in 2006. So that's 19 years ago. And so as long ago as 2006, there was some modicum of seriousness about head injuries, and the player and the team or the league together end up making some decision sometimes. And I'm sure countless times players have played through it, like used to always happen. What's sad about it to me is all these years into whatever level of seriousness there is about head injuries, it's still easily available to the team. The player is going to be the player usually. This is my career. It's short. This is for a cup. This is legacy stuff. It's for big money. I'm 25. I'm not sitting down. If I sit down, my teammates don't respect me. All the reasons why a player would just be like, you kind of feel okay. You just sort of play through it. But the team is the one with the supposed obligation to protect the player. And I think very often they just will not. And if somebody on the Leafs, how many people are watching this game involved with the Leafs or the NHL? How many people would have seen him shake his head after he had his mask off on the shot and known that that's a bad sign and let him play, and then the collision, and it's already happened in the game before, and now you have this, and you let him stay in, and it doesn't change until he goes to the bench and literally throws up on the bench. That's just not how it's supposed to work.
Right.
And so you can't really know. The league and the teams can hide behind that. Not that they always would be doing that, but they can. And, you can't know what's a concussion. It's not even called a concussion in sports. It's called concussion protocol. The NFL won't call it a concussion. You don't hear Sean McDermott say so-and-so has a concussion. He says he's in the concussion protocol, which means there is room for suspicion. Like, maybe he has one, but maybe he doesn't. And really what we're doing is, playing it safe. You saw with Josh Allen going in the tent, coming right out. You're not going to stop him. Or if you maybe you could, but you won't.
Right.
There's too much at stake.
Right. This, you're talking about a playoff game here, and I don't know what the score is. I don't remember what the score is when he gets hit in the head the first time with the shot in the first period. I know it's 4-1 when he eventually leaves the game, and then there's the furious rally, and good job Toronto by sort of steadying there and getting that thing home for them, because I think previous incarnations of that team with that group, you might have been pretty scared going into the final few minutes there, but they managed to get it home. But still, you're pulling the starting goalie, the guy that's getting a lot of credit for sort of stabilizing a position of weakness through the many years here of this core four's existence with the Leafs. They're always a contender, and they're almost always, one exception, losing in the first round. Second exception now. So here we are. It's game one, defending champs. Oh yeah, we're gonna pull this guy out. That's a tough thing to do. That's a tough thing to do in any building, but it's in Toronto. So yeah, the system isn't by any means foolproof, and you're hearing it today. I don't know, stretcher, hospitalized. Is Toronto trying to play into the drama at all here? I hate to even raise that as a suspicion, but I'm sorry, it's hockey. There's more misinformation than there is information about this stuff, and maybe they're hoping the worse it sounds, the more maybe the league would consider punishment on Bennett. They don't. Stolarz is out of the hospital, and they're not even ruling him out for tomorrow. Okay, if he was concussed last night, there's no way he should be playing a hockey game tomorrow. But
maybe he won't, but they don't have to rule him out today.
Right.
Because then you can play the game, the upper body, lower body game, and we don't know yet. We might know, but we're not going to tell you. But in this case, it looks more egregious because of what we watched last night. It looks more egregious to not rule him out. If he had a torn ACL, you could also say, we're not ruling him out. Guys have played in the playoffs with that.
Right. That's right.
So it feels like too soft of a word, but that's what's so unfortunate about it. Because I say the stakes are too high in my commentary about whether Josh Allen goes back into a Bills game. Are they that high compared to the effects of the concussion over the years? What's higher?
Yeah,
whether you win the game or
I would have no question at all. Look, any guy would want Connor Hellebuyck's. He's an interesting one to pick here with how many times he got yanked in that series, but they finally got past it and around to round two now. But he's one of the best. No one argues. He's playoffs. Yes, he's got something to prove. He's one of the best goalies in the league year over year. He's got the big contract. He's got everything. That guy would want to stay in. Stolarz, this is his opportunity to finally get somewhere really substantive in his career. He's been just sort of bounced around, back up with promise. That's been basically his resume. And then this year began, he looked like he had, and then he got hurt. And the door cracked back open. But for him, fortunately, the other sort of young guy that replaced him last night, Wall, has also been injury prone. A lot of promise, but can't stay there. So the door opened back up. Stolarz is back in. A good playoff here. His next contract, his career, he's set. He's made it. That's what he's playing for the Leafs. He's playing to end a long Stanley Cup championship drought, all the things that anyone that roots for Toronto are interested in. But selfishly, individually, Anthony Stolarz is playing to establish he's a $5 million or $6 million a year goalie, which would be, the equivalent of winning the lottery in life. You've strived this long, you better believe he's not going to want to come out of a game. I matter here. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for since I was 17 years old. So that's why you need independent people to pull guys out of games like that, because they're not going to do it themselves. No. Or frequently they won't. I mean, I shouldn't say it so definitively, but
it's still not really acceptable culturally.
Right.
And by culturally, I don't mean society, but just within a team, from the fans. Think about Connolly. I mean, you can feel sympathy to him, but I think he's also somebody he didn't really get a fair shake from the fans. It was he wasn't really popular, and am I mixing up my chronology because am I thinking of before 2006 when he caught fire and he looked like the best player in hockey for a couple of weeks and then went down. I don't know. What percentage of fans would have held against him? He didn't play like almost the entire next season.
Yeah.
And no doubt there were serious effects he was dealing with, maybe psychologically as well as just physically. But I think it's just the kind of thing that not everybody, I know it's the kind of thing that not everybody has respect for. Like, get out there. I think even on the youth level, right? I mean, I'm in that world now, and you were. And that was a long time ago for you, but still, like, you were in that world once, many, many years ago. And yes, and so you do see.
Sorry, I didn't take the bait.
You do see many, many years ago. You do see, I think.
Yeah.
Look, even youth coaches work for somebody. And in a lot of these, it's pretty serious. A lot of people know this, have experience with it. It's serious stuff. Parents pay a lot of money.
Yeah.
Programs are trying to win and grow and all of that. And a guy goes down with a head hit, your first instinct may not be to keep him out if he's good. Right? It's easier when he's just a backup.
It is a long time ago now, like you referenced.
So long. It's got to feel like a long time.
But and Owen, unfortunately, in playing, did suffer a few concussions, and never did I ever feel like the people handling the situation didn't respect it.
Good.
But I think that's not the same as opinions and different things that you would catch wind of, or even know that the players got told directly, I never missed this much time with something like that kind of stuff. That happened a time or two, but there was never a question.
Good.
In my experience, so at least we had that going for us.
Do you hope Toronto wins?
Yes, ultimately yes, I do. I really like Florida a lot. I really want just a good series, and it looks like
good start.
It sure is. Yeah, I mean, with how furious that comeback was, and like I already said, Toronto kind of gets buried in all the conversation about Bennett and the hit and intent and Stolarz' health and all that. They did a great job. Being able to get that game home, considering the adversity. I'm sure they had the lead, but they never gave it up. They were right there when it got tight to extend it again, and then it got tight again, and they hung on.
They got the goal, really.
Right.
There was a mix-up on Florida, and the guy buried the chance. So good thing.
Yeah.
Because that the whole momentum thing was not in their pocket.
But yeah, I feel like that it's usually either way is great, because when the Leafs blow it, it's sort of entertaining to watch everyone, lose their minds about it. But that's getting old, and I respect what they've done this year. I didn't think it was going to work, but the defensive play overall has improved so much, and guys. I never thought Oliver Ekman-Larsson was going to be a good idea, but he has been a rock for them. Tanev's always excellent, but I always worry he's going to get hurt. He's going to be playing on one leg or something by the time the playoffs get here, but that has not happened. So they're getting paid off on two big ads on the back end back there. And I've said this before, I think, but maybe only in passing. Nyes is like the thing that they have not had. Like, that is 6'3", 230. I mean, just a bull. And
with finish.
Great skill to go with it. That is a really, really nice piece.
I usually root against teams that are on long droughts because I like the continuation of the story. When the Red Sox were about to win, other than friends who liked the Red Sox, I wanted them to lose because if they win, that's it. What do I do with my 7 Curse of the Bambino shirts? What do I do with them? What about this curse? Oh, it was lifted. What do I do with my Cubs goat shirts?
What do I do with the shirt that says Red Sox magic number 1918?
Yes, magic
which
number
I had for a while.
Infinity.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it when those stories continue. But this one, I mean, I was a huge Leafs fan for many years growing up until into my 20s, and I have family there. I hope Florida. You had your chance. You had your win last year. Toronto-Edmonton would be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that remote a possibility. The last 3 nights, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the last 3 nights, from this game back to the Winnipeg win on Sunday to Dallas, Colorado. I mean, those 2 7th games from 2 goals down in the third.
Tremendous.
Late.
Right.
I have a friend who has a big parlay, one of yours, like you have the different championships. And he sent me a picture of the ticket. I'll show you the ticket because it's good numbers. He asked me on Dallas, Colorado was Saturday.
Yep.
He asked me on Saturday what he would do about a hedge because he had a bunch of wins already, over 5.5 on that hockey game. And then the winner, the outcome of the Washington-Carolina game tonight. And, I told him I would, because it was so much money on the line, I told him I would hedge and bet the under on Dallas, Colorado. 5.5. It was 2-0.
Yeah.
With how much time left?
12-14 or something to go in the third period.
And it was 3-2 with 4 seconds left. And it ended 4-2.
Yeah.
That's running nice. I apologize to him for the idea to bet the under.
Right.
Even though I was probably right. Well, you can't say you're right.
You can't really say you were probably right. You were close to being right.
I was close.
You were very close to being right.
Just like, Colorado didn't win.
The drama there, I mean, I'm not going to exaggerate this to people on the streets were talking about it or anything, but I was in Denver, the Denver area here for the last few days here, Friday through yesterday afternoon, and I just cannot believe the torture for all the fans there. Some probably were still shook about Rantanen being traded to begin with. And then to have it just go the way it's gone with him winding up in Dallas and then to have that 8 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever it was. Oh, my gosh. That was incredible. We're upset about guys that leave here and win. And, but imagine if the Sabres trade away Eichel and then he does that to you in the playoffs.
You trade Eichel to Vegas, and one reason why you pick Vegas is because you're not going to have to play him. And then before the next deadline, Vegas trades him to Toronto. Right. And Toronto beats you. That's what happened.
And he's the key guy.
Right.
He does it all.
They traded him to Carolina, right? The Avs.
Yes, they did.
They traded him to Carolina.
See you later.
Don't want to make a trade in our division or conference, whatever I think he is. And Carolina trades him right to Dallas.
Right.
Tough one.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. That wasn't supposed to happen.
That is a brutal
Then we were playing
outcome.
you in the first round.
Yep. Well, all I've got going is Dallas. So I'm grateful they found a way to win Game 7 they did on Saturday night. I couldn't sit with it. I was at a concert, but yeah.
We're all big Dallas fans.
That's all I've got is Dallas. And Oklahoma City, too, and that was tough last night.
Winnipeg could win, too. I mean, Toronto, Edmonton,
you
could still get Winnipeg now. 3 of the last 8 teams. 803-0550 for your calls. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. We'll get back to some football talk as we continue here on WGR.
The Buffalo Sabres will officially be picking 9th overall in this year's draft, which is scheduled to start June 27th in L.A. For more on last night's lottery, we do have a piece up at our website, WGR550.com. And do stay tuned, as at 6 o'clock, Paul Hamilton will join the show. We do have 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight, both game ones at 7. Washington has Carolina in town. Then at 9:30, it's the Oilers versus the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. Toronto goaltender Anthony Stolarz no longer in the hospital after leaving yesterday's Game 1 against Florida early. He took an elbow to the head from Panthers' Sam Bennett. Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube has not ruled out Stolarz for Game 2 tomorrow, and Bennett is not expected to face any discipline from the league. 2 games in the NBA tonight. Game 2 between the Cavs and the Pacers in Cleveland at 7. The Pacers lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, it's Game 1 of Warriors-Timberwolves. That game will be in Minnesota. Also in Minnesota, the Bisons, as they take on the Saints just after 7:30. That game's going to be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7 o'clock. And then 2 games will get going just after 9:40. The Mets in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks, and the Blue Jays out west in California to take on the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
My whole career, I haven't really had too many great opportunities with a stable quarterback the entire season. I've been playing with so many guys. It's what it feels like, 5 quarterbacks every single season. So I just feel like being blessed with the opportunity to, God willing, have 17 for the entire season. The MVP at that, a top-tier caliber player, top-tier caliber team, top-tier caliber coaches, putting you in position, I feel like it would just be the best position that I've been put in yet.
That is Elijah Moore, who has caught touchdown passes. Not that he has that many, frankly, but he has caught touchdown passes from 6 quarterbacks in his career.
All righty. Zach Wilson.
Yes.
I'm done. Joe Flacco.
Yes.
Jameis Winston.
Yes.
I'm struggling here, clearly.
Deshaun Watson.
Oh, sure.
There was a touchdown pass from Deshaun Watson to Elijah Moore.
I'm going to not be too hard on myself for not assuming that. Just because, he's hardly played there. Watson, right?
One was the Baltimore Ravens backup last year, who was not Tyler Huntley. He might have been in Miami. I think he was in Miami last year, Tyler Huntley. He's been on 14 teams, I believe.
Josh Dobbs?
Josh Johnson. And the last one to catch to throw a touchdown pass to Elijah Moore is a former Bill, if not a current one. We got you on this guy another time.
Brandon Allen.
No, because he wears number 14. He's the last quarterback to play for the Bills in the regular season. I think. He took their most recent regular season snap, I think. This guy, you really have a blind spot for this guy. Because you're usually nails with these.
Right. I don't know. Shane Buechele?
Shane Buechele is incorrect.
It's not Trubisky. Who played that game? I'm not going to look. I refuse to look.
I respect that. I mean, I respect refusing to look.
I don't know. And this is not the first time that I've been stumped on this player.
The last Bills regular season snap was this player throwing incomplete to Keon Coleman in New England with 1:31 left and the Bills down 7.
I watched that game. I was here for that game.
He went 0 for 4 on the drive. All passes to Keon Coleman.
I came in because of the playoff stuff. The Sundays were still the only day I was working from home, but I came in. So we didn't want me to be lagging behind with the stream. We wanted to be on the same page
for the Denver game,
for the playoff, matchup potential.
Mm-hmm. And you came all this way to watch that game, and yet you don't remember how it ended.
And I think I brought food.
Okay, that's maybe why I don't remember.
That's a brag I didn't really need to make. Yeah, I know.
I'm sure Keon Coleman was open on all 4 of these passes, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. That wasn't really nice.
Yeah, I remember.
Because it could have been open, but Mike White could not get him the ball.
Mike White. All right.
You just can't seem to remember the name Mike White.
No, I can't. Or that he's on the Bills and was on the Bills even last year and threw passes.
January.
Threw passes to people, yes.
2025. I got to cook up a good Bills trivia game for you.
Oh, sure, because clearly I'm ready.
It could take a whole day.
Is this training camp here that I'm with Mike White?
This is Elijah Moore trivia.
I didn't remember that Mike White is on the team. Okay, there. Maybe now.
Because we were talking about the number 14 another time, and who was the last Bills player to wear 14, and it was Mike White. And you didn't have that.
No,
either.
I definitely
You can't
didn't
seem
have
to
that.
remember.
No.
I would tell you who a guy is that I can't remember, but I don't know because I don't remember him.
Yeah.
So I can't help you with that. I'm sure there are many, but I don't know who they are. Elijah Moore, Bulldog. It's going to be annoying, but aren't we going to, if we want it, have the same sort of debates about how to rank the receivers again this year?
Yes.
Couldn't Elijah Moore be number 2, if not number 1? And couldn't he also be number 6?
I don't know that I want to hear the case for he could be number 1. I don't even know about 2. The best I could do there is Coleman's so young. But to me, Shakir is whatever position you're playing, and maybe it's not ideal, although, I don't know, the Lions seem to make it work with your number 1 receiver being a slot guy primarily. But Shakir is, to me, that's entrenched. And it's not just because they paid him. If we were a year behind in the timeline, it'd be harder to sell you on the idea of him being their leading receiver, but I think that's where we are. That happened last year. He's been paid now. And he's gonna be the number 1 guy. 2, I guess I could get, and then all the way through, like you said. So 2 through 6, maybe. I can't hear an argument that he could be number 1.
Okay.
On this team,
I'm not really prepared to make it. Shakir is pretty locked in. It's just the only reason. Maybe you think that I dog him. I don't mean to. I respect him. The only reason I would, be open to somebody else being their most productive receiver this year is because I think his ceiling is capped. I just don't think there's enough, big play potential. He does yards after the catch happen from Shakir. Like, I'm not blind to that either.
Yeah.
But I just think there's only so much there.
Well, I wonder how much we should be considering positional flexibility. Maybe now, if Moore is someone who is going to perform at least well enough to make the team, let's start there, right? Because if he's some just training camp cut, then this exercise is futile. All right, so he's going to make your team, right? He's one of the 6 guys, and if that comes to pass, and he's along with Shakir and Samuel, someone that is getting a uniform, so he's dressed. Do you start then, and I'm sort of connecting dots going all the way back to Shakir's, his first off season here after the draft. Well, he can really do it all. Any place you want to put him, he can play. And, absolutely he is thriving as the Bills' slot receiver. But formationally, I saw Trapasso tweeting about this before I left town last weekend. Especially maybe the way the Bills use their guys, it's not crazy to think that Moore and Shakir could be a little more interchangeable, or Samuel and Shakir, all 3 of them even, get their turns, and if they can be counted on. So maybe Shakir can find his way to making some plays outside, and that will help unlock other things in this offense. And if Moore is a reason for that, maybe he benefits from that too. So I'm just trying to find a way to make all these guys work.
Yeah,
I guess
you and they,
and maybe having more flexibility in where guys are going to be utilized and deployed is one thing to look for this year.
Well, you'd want to see that, because for as successful as they were, the advantage of having everybody back. Did you think I was going to say eats right there? The advantage of having everybody back should afford you that. That's one of the maybe the number one benefit of continuity is you have the whole 8-9 months in the lab. And Joe Brady and Sean McDermott, if you need McDermott for this, should know all his guys' strengths and weaknesses right now. So wouldn't you spend some time every day trying to figure out new ideas? I mean, that's, I think, what I would do. I think I can do that from a relaxed setting as well.
Unlike the high leverage tension situation that Joe Brady finds himself in on the May the 7th.
No, I mean May
6th.
I think if I were he, I might be able to put some thought into this from a beach or a tropical locale. You see a guy at a pool with all kinds of like a laptop and just piles of papers and maybe a pocket square.
I wonder how much a guy like Elijah Moore is maybe a good thought exercise for this idea. What level of signing gets a guy like Joe Brady to doing that work, whether they're on vacation or just at the office here? Like, do you find out? Oh, we're signing Elijah Moore. Well, I'll fit him in somewhere, and it doesn't really change anything. Or is it like, well, I can do this and move this guy like that, and like, is it what level of player do you need to sign to get the OC into the lab to that extent?
Well,
where he's trying to unlock new combinations.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. This is a different question, but do you call him to ask him about the player before you sign him? Does Joe Brady get a voice in, hey, I need you today to spend a couple hours on Elijah Moore.
Look at his skill set.
What do you see?
Right.
And you've got scouts who will do that, and Bean himself will do that. But would you want Brady to also do that? What can you do with this guy? I think so.
Yes. I want to say I definitely want that to be the case, and I guess I would also, with that, say I'd be surprised if it's not.
Offensive coordinator would be a pretty cool job to have of all football jobs. Plus, if you're somebody that doesn't really want to be the team spokesperson, he does during the season. He does once a week.
Once a week, yeah.
But It's not like McDermott. What would be the best job to have at the Bills? GM for me would be the one. As of course, I'm by saying that, I'm saying that I'm certainly qualified.
Yeah,
right. That's what I'm saying right now.
I think offensive coordinator is a cool job, and you would obviously like to have the best player at the most important position in the sport, but that almost makes it impossible for you to be viewed as a reason why you're having success. So I think in a certain way, that's a tough job to have.
I think that makes sense, but you still get the credit. Like Daboll still got, although Allen wasn't all perfect before Daboll.
Right. It gets harder as we go. Like Daboll gets ground floor, look at the house now. Right, to an extent, he gets a lot of the credit for that. And we don't know from out here how disproportionate, if at all, that is, but that's how it goes. The other guys are just sort of minding the store.
The enemy?
I think, at this point, yeah. And I think it's the least popular guy in town often is going to be the guy that calls the plays. If your quarterback is so, like, at the level that Allen is at, where nobody really wants to blame him for anything or look too hard for reasons why he cost you. He made the mistake. He did this. He threw to the wrong spot. He changed the call, all that sort of stuff. That all rolls down to the coordinator's door. And I think that's usually disproportionate to some extent, too. And for that reason, I would say that offensive coordinator is not my favorite job there.
But what are the odds Joe Brady's next job is an NFL head coach? Very strong.
Still very good. Right.
That will be his next job, right? I guess, to your point, the flip side of it is if this blows up.
Right.
Then maybe it wouldn't be.
If this
maybe be a quarterback's coach next.
If somehow they don't get the takeaways they got last year and the defense doesn't stabilize like everyone's sort of hoping that the draft will help it do, and you just do not produce like you did, he's the first guy out the door. If it doesn't go well. I think.
Man, the first thing, if I were he, that I would want to tell somebody, who's considering me for a job is 30 points a game. Mac Hollins, 5 touchdown catches was the most.
Right.
Next question. But the quarterback, I know. 803-0550 for your calls. We'll ask Bulldog the Blues question. as we continue here. Lines are open until 6 when Paul Hamilton joins us to talk some hockey. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR. Welcome back. If you missed our guest, Matt Verderame from earlier today, check it out on the Odyssey app. Tomorrow, Sal will join us. Thursday, possibly Josh Byrne, working on that.
All right.
With the Bandits back in the finals. I think I saw...
It's finals, by the way?
Not final. Probably. I don't know.
Just being a little jerky.
I don't know for sure, but it's the last round.
We're not to that. We're not to that conversation yet, anyway. Because that's when final starts happening in June. You know, the hockey and basketball. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to sideswipe you there on Josh Byrne, but that's awesome.
Not set yet, but hoping for him. Is there someone else too?
Greg Wyshynski.
Yep. That's who I forgot. Friday, Sam Panayotovich. Sam will be happy because the Rockies will not win today. Postponed by weather. They're 6-28. How about that call? Like, it wasn't the Rockies were ever going to be really good. That never happens.
Right.
But they could have been just like there, like the A's are. Or the A's are actually good. The A's are 4 games over. Bad example.
Wow.
The Marlins. The Pirates, teams that are terrible but also way ahead of the Rockies in the standings.
Right.
You lost your first baseman for the year.
I guess that's right.
Casas?
Yeah.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Knee injury?
Yeah. Yours doing a lot of lifting there. I think I needed you to say his name. I don't know if you can tell that. I go, oh yeah, Casas, really tough. Tristan Casas.
Yeah,
at least I knew his first name.
I've been enjoying baseball this year.
Good.
Mm-hmm. I set out this year to watch. I'm not keeping track, but I set out this year to watch one home broadcast from every team, and I don't have access to them all. I get the Guardians, I get the Yankees.
Yeah.
Maybe the Pirates too.
Now and then, yeah, right.
Not the Mets? Do we not get SNY?
We always had, but I haven't looked this year on Fubo you're talking about. I'm not sure because Yes came in last year, and I don't know that didn't displace SNY.
I looked for the Mets last night in Arizona and couldn't find them.
I have not looked yet this year, but they have been a staple of the Fubo coverage.
I did watch the end of the Yankees game, which was really great. The Padres got 4 in the 8th. Downpour. The game was largely played in a downpour last night, so it's sort of a weird scene there. No fans really, and the Padres don't really seem to belong in Yankee Stadium. Somehow the Padres got an invite, and then went and won the game. So,
I think this is correct. I think SNY is gone from the Fubo land because I don't see it anywhere, any baseball games coming up, and obviously there'd be one within the next few days that's carried on that network. So, yeah.
Are we watching the most incredible soccer game ever?
This seems pretty good. Yes, the audience noticed you in the middle there of a commentary, you paused at a weird times. You looked up and there was a guy doing a flying karate kick celebration with no shirt on because you had just missed the goal that tied the match in the 90th minute.
It's Champions League, so it's the semifinals. Is that all right?
Yeah.
I call it the semifinals. And it's the second leg, Barcelona and Inter Milan. The first leg was 3-3, and this game in injury time, second half, is also now 3-3. 6-6 in the aggregate.
Yeah, Milan just tied it really as the clock ticked into the 90th minute.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to settle this.
Yeah, well, there's still a few minutes here of added injury time, and then they're going to have to just go 15 penalties if it gets there.
I think maybe. I do have a game I can name for the most incredible soccer game I think I've ever seen. It was that Barcelona with Messi comeback in this tournament, I think maybe against PSG or Bayern. And they were down 5-1 or something. Remember this a few years ago?
I feel like we were watching it in here.
We watched it in here, and I went home and I watched the replay. Watch this game. I'm telling you right now, that team wins. You don't expect a 5-goal comeback.
No, in soccer?
Soccer.
No.
But that was at least about what happened in that game. All right, we'll get back to the Bills and some Sabres talk as we continue as we near 5 o'clock, 803-0550 if you want to get in, what you want from the schedule, what you got or didn't, want about the draft, all of that still on the table. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
will officially be picking 9th in this year's NHL draft, which is scheduled to begin June 27th in LA. For more on last night's lottery and what is going on forward with the Buffalo Sabres, stay tuned. Paul Hamilton joins the show in just about an hour at 6 o'clock. 2 games tonight in the Stanley Cup playoffs, both game ones at 7. Washington has Carolina in town. Then at 9:30, it's the Oilers versus the Golden Knights in Las Vegas. Toronto goaltender Anthony Stolarz, he's no longer in the hospital after leaving yesterday's Game 1 early against Florida following taking an elbow to the head from Panthers' Sam Bennett. Bennett did speak earlier today with the media, saying he reached out to Stolarz and also wanted to give his point of view on the incident.
I'm just taking the puck to the net. I didn't even know that we made contact until after. And, I mean, I'm on the power play. I'm trying to score. I'm taking the puck to the net, and that's really all there was to it.
Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube has not ruled out Stolarz for Game 2 tomorrow, and Bennett is not expected to face any further discipline from the NHL. 2 games in the NBA. Game 2 between Cavs and Pacers in Cleveland at 7. The Pacers do lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, it's Game 1 of Warriors-Timberwolves. That game will be in Minnesota. Also in Minnesota, the Bisons tonight as they take on the Saints just after 7:30. That game can be on our sister station, The Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7 o'clock. Then 2 games after just about 9:40 as the Mets are in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks. And the Blue Jays, they are out west in California to take on the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Hard salami's okay, but it's not as good, right? Although maybe if you're French vanilla, you'd be like hard salami.
You mean the best vanilla?
The fake vanilla.
The delicious
the
vanilla?
Fake vanilla.
The creamy vanilla without sand and dirt in it?
It's Mike Schopp.
I like that
Sand
one.
and dirt. The beans.
Yeah.
The specks.
Yes.
Are the problem.
It's granular.
The actual what vanilla is the absolute worst take you've ever had. Because it's on different levels of offensiveness.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
And the Bulldog.
Maybe when you first made the ice cream, they were interested in making it, I don't know, good, and added cream to it to make it creamy, like thus ice cream, not ice sand, ice gravel.
People, what do we even do?
I mean, what are we talking about?
Help.
Police! Help! Police! Help!
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, here we go. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Let's give Bulldog the blues question. You know?
All right.
Let's see what happens. Yesterday, you were in airports, on planes, traveling, didn't see the lottery, didn't hear the show, didn't work, so weren't plugged in.
No.
To what I was doing.
No.
Let's say that.
Did manage to watch some playoff hockey and basketball on the airplane, but other than that, I was pretty out of it.
2 people, Zach and Chad DiDomenicis, took this question head on and answered it similarly.
Okay.
The St. Louis Blues just had a 96-point regular season, making the playoffs on a tiebreaker over Calgary. So a thrilling, maybe the most exciting hockey season you can have, where it's just really close all the way to the end. That's not really the point.
And their playoff series went double overtime, Game 7.
I know. So they make the playoffs.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
They play Winnipeg, the President's Trophy winner. The Blues were never like anybody's Stanley Cup pick, but, good season. You get the Jets. You're an underdog. You take it to 7. You win Game 6. You take it to 7. You've got the goalie rattled, perhaps.
Sure.
And you have a 2-goal lead in Game 7 with just over 3 minutes to go. Now you can taste it. We're going to win. I mean, what's their win probability at that time? 90-some percent.
It's got to be very high, yeah.
What's their win probability with 2 seconds left and they have the lead?
Mm-hmm.
But 1.6, Winnipeg ties the game, double overtime. What is overtime like for a Blues fan?
Why do we even have to be doing this?
We had it.
Right? Yes.
And it's 2 Blues fans sitting together, if you can imagine it. One's like, I can't believe that got away. The other person sort of quietly says, well, we don't have to lose. We could still win this. Right. The first person wants to punch them. And then late double overtime, Winnipeg wins the game.
Yeah, some point shot that just threw a maze, right? Just finds its way into the net. Well, that's hockey sometimes.
Joe Corvo.
Sure, right. Works. Yeah.
Double overtime.
That bounced like 3/4 of the way to the net.
Worst goal
that
ever.
Corvo shot bounced.
That was so
Terrible.
sad.
Yeah.
And you're out. You went from, all right, we're in the playoffs, to we got this. 1.6 seconds away to you lost. Would you take that season for the Sabres next year?
Yes.
Okay, 3 for 3. Didn't even think about it. Or for long.
Yes. Heartbreak and all. Sure.
I hate this answer.
They have to at some point get past the objective being to end the drought. Right? And sure, they could turn into a team that is capable of winning rounds like that. They add the right pieces, the goalie gets really hot or lucky, something happens, whatever. They could get like a lightning strike and have a season where they're maybe even kind of a real contender, but come on. That just seems so unlikely. It feels so far away. I would take that season, all of it. Yeah. And I don't know, when it's over, what am I doing with it? Because I'm not guaranteed of just picking up where I left off, of course, going into the next year. But what did I do? I ended the drought, and I gave one of the best teams in the league a real run for it here. All right, maybe I'm not that far from putting together a team here that can really be viewed as a contender. A 105, 110-point team that could be a force.
You ended one drought, but not the one that really matters, which is winning in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But where I started here is we're going to need to get past that eventually. But until we get at least that, they squeeze in with 88 points some year or something, sort of like the Blues, although they had more points than that. But, you get the point. Just sort of get in and look at that. Florida was very much that 2 years ago.
Well, what happened, though? They went to the finals.
Right.
This stuff isn't linear. It sounds good, but I don't think I want to sign up for a first-round loss of any sort next year. I think really, it's not like that's a bad season, but I don't want to buy it. I don't want to just be okay, because that's a sign. You're not exactly saying this, but a sign that things are going up, right? I mean, the next year, who knows? That would be the way St. Louis lost. Think about Buffalo for this. I mean, it would just be unforgettable. It would go on the list. The year you lost with 1 second to go, and then in overtime, it would go on the list. And I don't think these Music City Miracle, Brett Hull, these losses don't include, the memories don't include what your expectations for the season were. Really, right? It's more just though, the years go by and you're there, and that happened.
Right. And
it goes down in history. Chad said to this, I asked him this question, and he said, absolutely, I would take it. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, it would sting for a day. I think it would sting forever. I think it would be the kind of loss that would just never be forgotten. And I don't want that. I'm saying no to this offer.
Yeah. I'm not saying we'd get over it so quickly, but I think I'm probably with Chad. We went through this with the Bills, and they played one of the most hard to watch from an aesthetic. Just that playoff game was a terrible game. It was a terrible sporting event, and it didn't really matter. Right? I mean, it's just one game, 3 hours, but the drought ending was what that was. And now, we can look back now and look at what's been built here and, react however we choose to rewrite it to how important that was to the overall here, right? But because it kind of started over the next year. I mean, here comes Brandon Beane, and it's Josh Allen, and it's just a whole different thing. But still, they did get the credibility of getting that playoff drought off their backs. So I need to do that, and it feels like I cannot do anything else until I do that. great if you can manage to do more than that in a single offseason, but holy cow.
I think that Bill's example works in one way, and that's McDermott. McDermott bought himself credibility, time by doing that. I mean, I've heard him reference it. Like, we ended the drought. That team was not, I'm not meaning to take credit away, but like they weren't good. The most memorable thing that happened in that year, apart from Tyler Boyd making a play for the Bengals against Baltimore, is Peterman getting just ridiculously trounced in that game against the Chargers. Like, you know, there were other highlights, but it was really just a fluke. And so, right, they changed. I mean, they had Hyde and Poyer on that team, right? They had Trey White as a rookie on that team. They were building it. Milano, even. So that was a good draft. But it was, Allen was sort of like a reset.
Right.
The next year, it was a bumpy rookie year, and it's after that, I think that's the beginning of the era. It's hard to even sort of remember it right, with McDermott being here with Tyrod Taylor for a playoff team. I don't know. Like, Ruff doesn't need that. It's still a first-round loss. And it's an excruciating one. And to me, like, in hockey, you get in, you can make a run. And St. Louis was almost an example of that. Against the best goalie and against the President's Trophy winner. They'd be a team that you would, when we talk to Paul, because Paul might say, well, you could get in, but you'd have no chance. And you're like, well, you could say, what about the Blues? You were a second and a half away from saying, well, what about the Blues? Right. And there are often those examples.
In hockey for sure. Yeah, I mean,
Florida.
You get so much of that once the playoffs get going. It's that, like, oh, I can't even, because you haven't watched hockey that fast all year, really. Maybe you watched the Four Nations face-off and got your taste of it because that was accelerated. That was what that was. Even, further because of the overall talent line over line versus the best NHL teams. But it's always, they've never been able to keep up. Everybody plays faster. It's just more intense. Like, you have no idea what any of these Sabres players on this roster currently would look like playing in the playoffs. But to get there and then have that extra gear, like that's a part of it. And every player in the NHL is capable of that. Like just rising the level of intensity, and you find, wow, I haven't seen them play this fast in a long time. Well, that's because they haven't been in the playoffs.
They might be the kind of team that would be better.
Who knows?
Because of their talent.
Yeah, but I just,
that's something you can hang your hat on, isn't it?
As bittersweet as it would be, I need a week. I need 10 days of this community remembering how awesome that is. And the only way to get that is to get there again. And so, like, I don't want to. I never want to put my name on. I don't care what happens once they get there. But I'm right. I'm just about there. I need hockey, because what you're buying by making the playoffs, of course, you're buying the extension of the season, and hopefully it goes longer than 10 days, right? But you're also buying February, March, and April. It matters. Like, I'm in a race. These games matter for seedings, for road, whatever it is. Like,
getting in.
That's just been so foreign here for so many years. Where there's been the odd year or two where it's been like, oh, they win tonight and get the right result. Like, they could be in a spot when we wake up in the morning. Like, that's happened a time or two. But even that, you're reaching for any sign of there being substance to these games.
That always feels terrible,
right? But here, you're actually in the right. You're in the spot. You're trying to get second instead of third, so you get home ice in that Atlantic Division matchup, or you're trying to get the top wild card versus the bottom wild, whatever it is. But you're confident you're going to make it. Man, the last 8 weeks of the season are great.
With the Sabres, those examples of, well, you're 7 points out, but if you beat Detroit and Ottawa loses, just feels like you're staring at the phone waiting for her to call, and you're just making it worse. Didn't we have that this year even? Like, don't do this to me. Don't tell me how many points and the magic number. Don't do this to me, because I know I'm just going to get hurt. Here's Matt with us. Hi, Matt.
Hey, guys. I don't know how you wouldn't take it because the Sabres just keep extending their NHL record of futility, and I don't know what we did as fans to deserve having the number 1 and number 2 records of playoff futility in both sports leagues all time. But, that would exactly be a way that the Sabres would, or a Buffalo sports team would end up losing, because look at how we lose in the playoffs. I don't even think that would make the top 10 in terms of, playoff losses for heartbreaking ways to lose. It's in the first round, really, whatever. I mean, you look at the Super Bowl losses or, no goal or any of those other losses that are, Music City Miracle, whatever, they would be way more devastating than losing like that. But, that would just add to the list of ways that Buffalo sports teams lose.
I think you might be understating it a little bit, the way you position that. But largely, I agree. I think you get to that point in the season and you've ended this extended drought. How mad are we really for the next 24 hours or 48 hours? I don't know. I'm guessing if the Bills are any kind of precedent, probably not that angry. What a ride. Look at that. Okay. What do we need to do next? Right? The drought is over. We finally cleansed ourselves of that. And I think that's a win for the season. Especially because the series, in the end, years down the road, does it matter that it was Game 7 and it was so close and the heartbreak? I don't know. But in the moment, it's going to feel like you gave one of the best teams in the league a really good run for it. And I think I would be feeling optimistic about the future for the first time in, 15 years.
Two things from the callers' takes. The Bills' drought is not the longest ever. 25 is that number, mostly pre-Super Bowl era. Washington, and even in the Super Bowl era, New Orleans went 20 years. Arizona longer, also bled into the Super Bowl era. So 17 is not the league record. The Sabres' drought is the NHL record. So you're right about that. Losing Game 7 that you led with 1.6 seconds to go and then lose in double overtime would not even be in the top 10.
Yeah, see, that's why I said I think he was underselling it.
Give me the top 10. Are the Braves on the list? Give me the top 10. You want to make a top 10? We rank things. The worst, imagine tuning in to hear that. The worst Buffalo losses, it would be on my top 10. What's the worst Sabres? No goal. Number 1, right? No goal.
Yes.
What's second? Carolina?
Yes. I think so.
Caller mentioned first round as a strike against this one. So that's the conference finals, Game 7 of the conference finals.
Yeah.
Brad Park?
That's
Game 7 overtime, second round.
Yeah,
That's also Kasperitis. All right, maybe it is another top 10. I don't know. There's a lot of them. There's a pretty good list. Most cities have a list like this, but they also have wins.
Yeah.
Kasperitis was Game 7, second round.
Yep. You might. And we didn't even get to any of the Bills ones. So maybe the caller's right to say it wouldn't even crack the top 10.
But
and a big part of why would be what you accomplish, the drought. If it's a run of 5 playoff appearances in a row or something, if you're the LA Kings and you just cannot beat the Edmonton Oilers, then no, that is not fulfilling. But if it ends a 14-year playoff drought, yeah, I'm good over here. Thanks.
But I want to say again, think of those examples. What did I do? 1982 is Park. 2006. 2006 is a good example. I'm saying again, I think this is really important to this exercise. How you felt about the drought is like an actual factual thing. How you felt, though, about expectations for those seasons are not relevant. They don't even come to mind necessarily. You just think about the endings. 2005-06 was not supposed to be a great year, but it turned into one. That's another reason why I would not sign up for this Blues thing, because you just never know what the road can be. And maybe my 96-point season is like, again, I've got a high-paced team that will, never been to the playoffs before. That's 05, 06. No, a lot of those guys had never experienced it. And then they showed up, and they were great. And, I played a couple of bad goalies, and there I'm in the semis. So, who knows?
I can appreciate that point. There's a reason why the 05-06 team, to me, is more sentimental than the 06-07 team, and it's almost 100% because of the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That 05-06 season did not begin with us thinking they were any kind of a favorite, and by the time the playoffs were on the horizon, it started to feel like maybe they could be. Although there wasn't a ton of people you thought they could win it when the playoffs were beginning. I still remember sitting in here with you doing some sort of roundtable, going, "I like us," or something.
I think I was lucky,
but nonetheless,
Emery.
Your frame of mind matters, and now we've been through the drought. And so all I think, like anyone who's answering this question as quickly and as definitively as I and Chad and Zach all did, is simply like I've been through this, and now this thing happened. It's impossible for me to not be overjoyed still, even though the result wasn't what I wanted.
If you go back to 2005, now we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about expectations going into that season. Mostly we were mad at hockey.
Right.
They had canceled the previous season, and they were going to trick it up, and who knows what it was going to be. Are people going to go? Fans were mad. I'm not going back, all the things. I doubt we spent much time on how good will this team be. But if we did, and I had said, "Hey, Bulldog, do you think," because we were sitting here, what if I told you they would make the playoffs and lose to the Flyers in Game 7 despite having the lead with 1 second to go? Would you take that? You'd probably say yes.
Yeah.
Because they've been out of bankruptcy, and that's progress,
Mm-hmm.
and, they had a young team. You'd probably say yes. Well, good thing that didn't happen.
Yeah.
They instead lost an excruciating 7th game of the 3rd round. Right?
And that
Isn't that great, everybody?
And that was way better.
That was way better because you have,
right?
Well, yes and no. It's better, right?
Right?
It's better because you have that Ottawa series that's just incredible to remember. Yesterday was the anniversary of Game 1, I think. Well, it includes an excruciating defeat, which, those are part of sports life, but I think it's kind of fun to think about. Part of it is thinking about them actually in the postseason. That's good.
That's fun to get lost into.
That's
fun. I like the question a lot.
All right.
So thank you for presenting it to me. Although I did not hear anything about B.B. King or Buddy Guy.
No, you didn't. No blues music was referenced.
Yeah, until now.
But the blues are when you lose.
Yeah,
blues are a good name for a team.
I guess that's why they call it the blues.
I guess.
I
guess that's why they call them the blues.
I should be fired.
Anybody else want it? Anybody else would say no? I'm the only one. 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Paul Hamilton at 6. This is WGR.
a half hour at 6 o'clock. We do have 2 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs tonight, both game 1s at 7. Washington has the Hurricanes in town. Then at 9:30, it's the Oilers versus the Golden Knights. That game will be in Las Vegas. While in the NBA, 2 games as well. Game 2 between the Cavs and the Pacers in Cleveland at 7. Pacers lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, it's game 1 of Warriors-Timberwolves. That game will be in Minnesota. Also in Minnesota, the Bisons, as they take on the Saints just after 7:30. That game's going to be over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. And then in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7 o'clock. Then, after just about 9:40, we'll have 2 games. The Mets in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks, and the Blue Jays in California versus the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
The winner of the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery and the first overall selection in the 2025 Upper Deck NHL Draft belongs to the New York Islanders.
I missed it. And then I heard the Islanders won from a friend who told me that when he saw Ken Morrow, he knew they would win because Morrow never loses. Olympic team,
wow.
Islanders, like he knew the Islanders had it when he saw Morrow. I guess Kevin Adams doesn't come with the same reputation, sadly.
So Morrow was I didn't realize he was the...
I spent a lot of time talking about it yesterday, including
person.
Reading through the number combinations, but I didn't see it. And once I heard about the outcome at about 8 o'clock or so last night, I was at St. Francis for Canisius Lacrosse, then I never thought about it again, or today at all. How was it? You didn't watch it either?
I didn't watch it. I was on. I heard about the result while watching the Leafs and Panthers last night on the plane.
Did you watch it?
I watched it. I was on air for it. I liked it a lot better. I mean, they did the whole. We're going to show you the live odds that you have. The whole thing. Didn't do it for the second draw though. It's where the NHL botched it again because the entire second draw they're just interviewing the Islanders guy and no one has any idea what's going on, or at least I didn't because we had it on mute. But I enjoyed how quick it was and just very upfront it was.
Did they drag it out one number at a time, the first draw?
Yeah, you got the first one, then they would show you, all right, where's everyone now? Second one, same thing, and on and on.
How did the Sabres odds change?
They initially got worse, then got better, then I think got worse, and then they were gone.
Yeah.
And it was the same for San Jose. San Jose got up to like 38% and then just cratered.
I thought I saw. I should look at. It was in his Twitter feed. Sal had a screen grab of the balls near the end, and I believe what he said in the tweet was whatever the winning ball, the last ball that won the Islanders the lottery, the number the Sabres needed was 2. And in the photo that he posted, the 2 was right behind the ball that went through.
All right.
That won it for the Islanders. So they were they were that close.
There's a 7, a 12, a 14. Have we talked? Yeah. It was fun yesterday. At least I thought it was fun.
Did you bring back ball 1?
I did not. That's never been my thing. I never went to the fair. I don't even really get it.
Needed me for that. No, it barely in context makes sense, but it worked for us.
7, 12, 14, and whatever. And there's 2. Plain as day.
Yeah.
On Sal's Twitter, there it is. It was right. But that would have won it for the Sabres.
I believe
the opposite of
so.
The one where they beat the Blackhawks out. The last ball. Whatever, was that Owen Power or Darlene even maybe? I forget. One of them. One of the times the Sabres won, there was a battle between the 2 balls.
Wow. Good thing the Power ball won.
The Sabres ball.
Ooh, I did a lottery thing there.
Yes.
Sorry. Any affiliation with... All right, I'll stop. I'm not going to read through a disclaimer I don't need to really read.
So are we going to say that the league will do that again? That they'll actually...
It sounds like
be more transparent?
It sounds like it was met with enough favor that I'd be surprised if they went back to doing it the way they were doing it, and that makes me bummed out that I did miss it because I'd like to have it to judge against the other ones, but I don't know. Honestly, I appreciate you got a day. You spent the day talking a lot about it. It's just so hard. It's so much of the frustration of what has happened with the Sabres and the fan base is it's worse because of the lotteries. It's Look, you don't have to agree that drafting the best players should be the fastest path to becoming a good team again. But, it's worked in plenty of examples around all of sports, okay? So the Sabres, no, they didn't win in either 14 or 15. But holy cow, the player they drafted in both of those years, they're both they're top-line players. It's hard to do better. Would you rather had McDavid? Sure. But Eichel is one of the best 200-foot two-way players in the league now.
And Reinhart is better than Eichel.
And Reinhart is a tremendous goal scorer and just continues to produce. And then on top of that, you've got 2 more lottery wins shortly thereafter, right? It was Dahlin 18 and then Power 21. That's supposed to help you figure out how to not continue to miss the playoffs. It's the thing that many teams that have won, Chicago, high picks, turned it around. Pittsburgh, high picks, turned it around. Toronto, Austin Matthews, turned it around. 1 year down, all the way back up. Edmonton, quintessentially, it took them a while. They're more like the Sabres because they had success earlier with the lottery. Yakupov, Taylor Hall, guys like that. Nugent Hopkins, thank you. Now he's still there, but eventually they get around to Draisaitl and McDavid, and now they're winning rounds most years. But the Sabres, everything you would have wanted to happen. That's really not in your control. It's lottery balls. It's the draft order. It's the prospects. That all went as well as you could hope for it to go. And still, here we sit.
That's right.
It's incredible.
That's right. Even some of the other picks were not terrible. Benson's good. Middlestat didn't work out, but wasn't terrible. When you're drafting as late as 9-10, your odds aren't so great that the guy's going to be a star. You sometimes, but not usually is the guy a superstar picked even, where's the cutoff for you? The top 5?
Barely beyond that, yeah.
Good players, but not always, You can't expect greatness, I think I would say. 9th pick this year, you want somebody who's good and here for a long time. You want, what Benson could be.
Right.
RJ's next. Hi, RJ.
Hey, guys. So the biggest thing I got going on here is there's no consistency with Josh Allen. That's what I fear, that this man's going to be on this team, and we're going to drag him along for the next 4 to 6 years and not give him consistency. So we got Elijah Moore. We signed him for 1 year. We're signing all these wide receivers, Max Hollins, 1 year. We bring these guys in. MVD was on a 1-year deal. These guys, nobody was here for the long term. How is this man supposed to get consistency? And I hate this. We all eat. We all do this. At the end of a game, when we need to have a winning drive, we need to have a wide receiver that can break away, get open, and not running a 10, 12-yard route across the field, hoping he's going to get open. We have to have that star. But how can you have a star when there's no consistency?
Well, you're not naming everybody. Certainly Diggs and Davis offered that. You want Coleman and Kincaid to offer that. Shakir has offered that. I don't know if the Bills' rate of turnover at receiver is really that unusual. I really don't know that answer. I don't think about it in that context. So I think more about just general quality than consistency. I think about consistency, your word, continuity with the line. And they've definitely, been successful up front, and that's even including some changes, although not this year. What do you think? What's your instinct on this point? Are the Bills an example of a team that turns over their wide receiver room too much or too often?
I don't think so.
MVS didn't really matter.
No, I think if you Diggs gets traded, so now we're into this new territory. So they kind of started over there. Shakir's the one holdover. I don't know. I feel like their room is pretty stable, actually. There's no great player in there, but they're going to have your top 4 guys. 3 of them are the same from last year. Palmer is switched in for Hollins or Cooper, however you want to cut that. But the other 3 guys, Samuel, Coleman, and Shakir, are still there in basically the same order, however you want to put them, rank them. I think Shakir's at the top, and then, from there you can figure it out. So I don't know. Like, I do think where we are now, like I was pretty fond the last year of referring to this as the first great experiment of Allen's career. Can we make this work without, that guy out there? And they set a franchise record for points. They scored like crazy. Excuse me. I think if you get something close to that again this year, then the experiment, because I think 1 year, turnover luck, whatever it was, I wouldn't want to trust that that's proof that I don't need more at receiver, right? That Brandon Beane is right? If they get a year this year that's close to what they did last year, then I don't know that they're ever going to be interested in getting a number one receiver. Because you do it 2 years in a row, you'd be like, what am I doing again by not paying someone $30 million to be on my team? Do you see my team out there?
What makes it fun is you can always cut it different ways, but like RJ, first team, who's the first team you want to compare them to? Why wouldn't it be Kansas City? Kansas City has Kelsey, and maybe that makes the rest of this moot. But they've had 4 different leading wide receivers the last 4 years. Tyreek Hill, 13 seconds is Tyreek Hill. The next year it's Juju. And they win the Super Bowl with Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. Matt Verderame mentioned those names. Juju was their leading wide receiver in 22. They would bring him back, but he wasn't a factor the next time. 23 is Rice, rookie
breakthrough
Rice.
Right, yeah.
And then he goes out pretty early last year, and it's eventually Worthy, I guess, right? Marquise Brown wasn't there before last year. Rice was a rookie. Worthy was a rookie. That's not consistency.
No.
That's the same. That's more. I think that's probably more turnover than what the Bills. Right. Just one example.
But
they have Kelsey.
Kelsey is the big piece there. Yeah, right. That doesn't exist here, but still.
Diggs was the Bills' Kelsey.
Right.
And Kelsey was supposed to have retired by now. Why hasn't that happened?
I don't know.
What's left to prove here, buddy?
I want to hope that they really regret that he didn't retire.
The Chiefs?
Yeah, I'm hoping that we all can look at it. See, you stayed too long. You should have left when you could have left. Your Uber was here.
They couldn't find him.
Couldn't find him.
The Uber driver couldn't find him. He was supposed to be at this entrance, but he was over there.
Yeah.
That just happened to you.
That happened to me in the mountains.
That happened to me at a casino.
That was great.
In Washington.
By the way,
was
my wife is quite a gamer, I'll tell you.
Not great. That's not a great feeling when they're parked waiting for you and you're like a mile away or something.
Yeah.
Not a great feeling.
No.
All right, RJ, well, I think quality is the thing more than this consistency idea, but maybe I'm wrong. 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. Thanks for listening or watching. YouTube, Twitch every day. One thing you don't see, although maybe you could have noticed it, this would be like almost creepy if you did. But we probably should welcome listening and watching all the time on all the different,
okay,
in all the different ways. There are two things that I think it's probably Jeremy does that I change as soon as I get here every day. One is I think it's Jeremy, right?
Yeah, Jeremy sits where you are.
I think it's that he doesn't want this chair. I think he sits in the same chair. He doesn't let it do this.
Recline. Okay.
He doesn't let it, recline. And first thing I do when I sit down is I check and I change it.
Okay.
So I can do this. Because that really feels like I am a prosperous adult. I have made it in life because I can recline in my chair at work.
Yeah.
Why would anybody not want that? Why does Jeremy want to not want that? So, 1. 2, he fills the screen with the call screen program. He has the program take up the whole screen like I just did.
Okay.
This is monstrous. He doesn't want that blue border, that beautiful, perfectly centered look.
Yeah.
So that's the second thing I do when I get here every day is change the setting. And these are probably the first and second things he does every morning when he gets here is this and whatever. I don't even know how I would do it, but change the setting on the chair. So if you've ever watched our streams, in the morning, Jeremy never leans back. And I'm always doing it. I have to remind myself to sit up. How do you like that? Speaking of,
I don't care about the screen thing. I just gotta get. I mean, totally for you, great.
Perfectly centered.
That is marvelous. And if it weren't, that would make me insane.
Also, that
would be a real problem.
That writing in the bottom right corner has to fit. Because if you aren't perfectly centered here, you get this.
Wow. Yeah. See, you know what I would do to avoid having to do all that? I would just leave it filling the whole screen. So I don't have to worry about the blue border being symmetrical and this little writing being exactly where it needs to be. I would just take the easy way out, which is expanded. So now the whole screen's full.
This is better.
That's perfect. Mm-hmm. I don't know about better.
It's definitely better.
I can't even say marginally because I don't think I care.
It's definitely better.
I would say whatever's easier would be better.
Well,
in this case.
You know what? What I learned growing up is that it's the hard that makes it great.
Yeah, well, I've heard that too.
Why take the easy route?
We both arrived at the same destination here. These jobs.
Why take the easy route?
Yeah.
I saw a guy last night at St. Francis that looked so much like Steve Tasker. I was talking to my wife, looking at him from a distance, and I'm like, there's a chance that's like 10%. There's a chance that's him. Didn't his kids go to maybe St. Francis?
I think so.
So I thought there was enough of a chance.
Start doing like grandchild math there. Like, does he have kids that are old enough that would have kids that would be playing high school lacrosse already?
A nephew, I don't know, whatever it is. Right. So I thought there was enough chance it was him that I walked toward him, and I still wasn't sure until I got very close. And I'm thinking, like, I'm staring at this guy. I think it's just like his hair, his height, everything, like it was so Steve. And I got maybe 5 feet away, and I turned my head to look, and it definitely wasn't him, and I scooted in the other direction.
The whole time you're walking toward him, are you hoping he's going to recognize you?
Yes.
Right? That's what you're hoping for, right? So you're getting closer, still nothing, especially if you can tell, has he noticed me? He has. Is this who I think it is? No, turns out you got out of there unscathed then?
I think so.
The guy didn't seem to notice that you looked to be perhaps stalking him?
Correct.
Okay, that's a win.
Correct.
That's a win for you. Good job.
I must have been funny to watch, like, move away from him. Like, why was, if anybody was watching me, I'm sort of just walking around kind of aimlessly, then that's why, if you happen to see me there, that's what that was. Paul Hamilton after sports. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. For 8 years plus, QC Kinetics has been the nation's leader in non-surgical relief for
One's at 7. Washington has Carolina in town. Then at 9:30, it's Oilers versus Golden Knights in Las Vegas. Toronto goaltender Anthony Stolarz no longer in the hospital after leaving yesterday's Game 1 early against Florida following taking an elbow to the head from Panthers' Sam Bennett. Bennett did speak today with the media, saying he reached out to Stolarz. He also wanted to give his point of view on the incident.
I'm just taking the puck to the net. I didn't even know that we made contact until after. And, I mean, I'm on the power play. I'm trying to score. I'm taking the puck to the net, and that's really all there was to it.
Maple Leafs head coach Craig Berube has not yet ruled out Stolarz for Game 2, which is tomorrow, and Bennett not expected to face any discipline from the NHL. 2 games tonight in the NBA. Game 2 between the Cavs and the Pacers in Cleveland at 7. The Pacers do lead that series 1-0. Then at 9:30, Game 1, Warriors-Timberwolves in Minnesota. Also in Minnesota, the Bisons, as they are taking on the Saints just after 7:30. That game's going to be on our sister station, the Bet 1520. While in the majors, the Yankees host the Padres just after 7 o'clock. Then at about 9:40, we'll have the Mets in Arizona versus the Diamondbacks, and the Blue Jays, they're in California to take on the Angels. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
All right, let's see what we get. Paul Hamilton with us here on the West Her Hotline. Paul, what are you up to today?
What am I up to today? Not a whole lot. I've been kind of dealing with a kidney stone lately, and that was worse this morning, but got better this afternoon, so that was a relief. Otherwise, I probably would have been getting some sort of surgery today instead of talking to you.
Well, we're glad you're still here with us now, but hope you get this tended to in a timely fashion, Paul.
You're saying if you were under the knife, you wouldn't have taken our call? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's due to come out next Tuesday, so I almost did it a week early, but it's okay now.
All right. Well, we'll X off Paul for next Tuesday then. Note to self. And that Open, by the way, has been played for years. Paul does not ever want to commit to knowing what's going to happen in the Sabres games, but all the other games, especially in the playoffs, he's got a handle on. So just watch his Twitter.
Let's go.
Because he knows who's going to win everything.
Washington, Carolina. Let's go.
What happens, Paul? All right.
Can we just start maybe with the playoffs? Because the last 3 nights have been epic. 1 game a night. But, Paul, how much better can you do? Dallas's comeback in Game 7, Winnipeg's rather amazing, almost unbelievable win in Game 7 on Sunday, and then Toronto, Florida with the goalie stuff, watching him get sick, and that's not what made it great, but 5-4 and just a great game. Playoffs, so far so good, especially lately here.
Yeah, and believe it, you're going to be shocked I'm going to say this. I got tired of the 4 games in a night. By the time I got to midnight, it's like I think I'm going to pass on the rest of this. It just got to be too much. I've really enjoyed this having the 1 game, or even maybe 2. You have a late game, early game, and a late game.
Like tonight.
The 4 games going back and forth, and sometimes working a Yankees game as a 5th. It's just like, no, I just got tired of it after. So, yeah, and the fact that these games have been so good, and they wound up in overtime anyway, so we got plenty of hockey for the evening. And, I've loved these Game 7s, and it's really been fun so far.
And it also, to me, feels like anybody could win it. Of the 8 teams, like, who's the worst of the 8 teams left? Carolina?
I think Washington.
Or Washington, yeah. Maybe they're the worst, too.
Is the worst team left.
Well, Carolina has a tendency to have their goaltending go into the fish tank.
And they're getting Anderson back, but we'll see.
Yeah, but he's gone in the fish tank many times as a member of the Leafs in Carolina. And, if the Winnipeg is interesting, because if Hellebuck plays like the guy who is up for the Hart Trophy, Dallas is in trouble. If he plays like he has through the playoffs, I think Dallas will have an easy time, and Winnipeg might be that team you're talking about. But who knows? I mean, he's quite capable of doing either one, and we'll find out.
If it had been St. Louis, the answer would be St. Louis.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know how much support this will have. Mike, you've been more down on Washington all year than I have been. Watching them in the first round, the goalie, I'd be terrified. Like I feel like he got good results. Obviously, they won the series. It wasn't even that challenging in the end. I just think a better team is going to be a real problem for him. I just think he's kind of all over the road fundamentally, and I think he should get exploited by a team that can press you the way Carolina can. But who knows? It's hockey. We'll see.
Carolina is minus 180 to win the series. And Washington is the longest odds on the board.
Their path to the conference finals is as easy as it could get with the Devils in round one. Carolina, without Jack Hughes, they managed to get that, and now this. I mean, I know Washington had an excellent year. I just do not think that they're not a 100-point regular season team to me, Washington.
He had an excellent regular season, but that doesn't mean he's going to have an excellent playoff. Now, he was part of that 5-goalie system that Vegas won the Cup with. Yeah. I mean, isn't that the way you're supposed to win the Cup, is you grab 5 goalies and away you go? Yep. And I'm including Leonard in there, who they lost in the beginning of the year. But he wasn't the guy at the end because of injuries and everything. That wound up being Hill, who is still their goaltender. So, he's been through it a little bit. But, just because, we've seen Linus Ullmark, who's had great success in the regular season and not in the playoffs. Hellebuyck, has done that. Even Bobrovsky, but he broke out of it. Now, I wouldn't say last night was his best game from everything I gathered. But, he was the guy that was just horrendous in the playoffs and was like a Vezina-type goalie in the regular season. And then that one year, he came in relief in the first series and never left the net. He finally started playing in the playoffs like he did in the regular season.
That's right. That 2 years ago when they went to the final from the 8th seed, they started the playoffs with Alex Lyon. Yeah, because Lyon had been so good down the stretch, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
and he had always been bad in the playoffs, not only with Florida but other teams. But all of a sudden, he became the goaltender of the regular season, and has taken the net ever since then.
Hashtag goalies. It's all one giant shrug emoji for me. Just, I mean, to put any rhyme or reason to it, to me, just I don't know. For me, it's not worth it. Because of how it changes.
Well, and it's the potential for a Stolarz injury here with being hospitalized at least for some time last evening while the game was still going on. For a playoff series between two of the best teams in the league, like to me, either one of these teams could win the Cup. And I know it's been so long for Toronto, but they have a team that could do it. That series is already setting up like it's going to be a doozy.
Yeah, and, Bennett coming through the crease like that, and how staunch I am that I think it's a joke, the suspensions of the National Hockey League usually are not long enough and usually don't happen when they should happen. Honestly, I agree with the NHL here. I would not have suspended him. I just think he was coming through to the net. Next thing you know, he's on the goalie, and he made contact with him. And if you want to say he should have maybe gotten a penalty because he made contact with the goaltender in the crease, I can live with that. I definitely don't think he did anything on purpose, and I would not have suspended him either.
The thing that makes it hard for me to accept that you can know, I mean, it's just your opinion. Anybody can watch this and arrive at that conclusion or the one I'm about to draw. The player's history, his track record of these subtle shots in the playoffs, I mean, Marchand most notably, I feel like there's nothing that's accidental there. That doesn't have to necessarily mean like I'm overdosing on malice either. I just think he's there. I got a shot. I'm going to take a shot. And he, I think, has demonstrated in his career the ability to make that look subtle enough that it doesn't rain on him. So I almost by reputation wanted the league to do something to him because that was not okay.
And you're absolutely not wrong. He has that reputation, but I guess I would say that doesn't mean he can't do something by accident, even though he has the reputation. And I guess maybe I was looking at it with the eyes of the reputation, and I still came to that same conclusion. But yet, now I don't think he would ever sign with the Sabres. But if I were the Sabres as an unrestricted free agent, there's the guy right there.
Yeah.
I mean, a guy who's a playoff-tested guy who can score goals, who who plays with a rambunctious,
he's
attitude.
on the edge, sure, yeah.
On the edge. I mean, just everything. When I talk about a top 6 forward, there's your guy. But, I mean, if you're the Buffalo Sabres, you're going to have to so overpay him to even make him consider it to come to a team after you've won a Stanley Cup, to come to a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for 14 years, to come to a team that, quite honestly, I don't know if Sam Reinhart would have nice things to say, just because, Sam Reinhart felt he wasn't respected here by management, and I don't blame him in the least.
Yeah.
He never was offered a long-term contract, and he certainly played well enough to be offered one. And that's why he left. He finally, and he talked about this once he got to Florida. He just felt that he did everything he was asked to do and should have done, and that never came from, 3 different general managers? And it sounded like at the end Adams was willing to do it, but it was too late.
Right.
Reinhart just said, no, I'm letting you know. You got one more year with me, and I'm leaving. And I don't blame him in the least, but I'm sure that information, if Bennett were even considering it, would be passed on to him.
That's right. It is 3 guys. Murray drafted him, Botterill, and then Adams makes the trade eventually when he leaves. Well, Paul, that segues nicely into what is happening over here. I was away for a little bit, but I know there was some reporting that Adams and Pegula have met. Do we have any idea? It's not the kind of thing that they necessarily hold a news conference about.
No,
unless there's news.
We assumed that this meeting had already taken place, and the fact that Adams was sitting there yesterday for the draft lottery. I mean, if there were any question, it has to be done by now.
Right,
I mean, It was either maybe the day after the draft, the NFL draft, or maybe right after that they all went down to Florida and had their meeting, whatever that may have been. And we had been talking about before the season even ended that I had been hearing that they weren't going to make a move with Adams. But I always felt that with Terry Pegula, you never know. One day he can say, well, I'm not going to make a move with Adams. The next day he can think, yeah, I am going to. And then the next day he's back to, I'm not going to make. That's the way he rolls. So even though you may hear one thing, and that may be true, but that only may be true for that day that you heard it with him, because he's just all over the place when it comes to trying to, come to a conclusion with those types of things. So even though I had heard that, was pretty confident with it, I never was like, this is definitely not going to happen, because you just never know with this guy.
Wonderful.
Sounds promising.
Sounds ideal, really.
Yeah.
Results speak for themselves.
Yeah,
Paul,
I guess.
One common complaint about all this over the years is the lack of a head of hockey operations type figure. I don't know.
Not for me.
Not for you. That's what I want to find out. I mean, I never really cared about that either, but I do think there's a credibility gain maybe possible if one of these guys that I also think I don't have to have because they're just sort of retreads, but somebody like that, would they mean something to credibility? Not for you.
Not at all for me. And we can come up with plenty of examples where it's worked, and we can come up with plenty of examples where it hasn't. For me, if you think Kevin Adams needs that, then fire him. Because if he needs that, then he shouldn't be the general manager of the Buffalo Sabres. To me, it's too many bosses. Why do you need a guy above Kevin Adams? If you don't think Kevin Adams is up for it, get rid of him and hire some guy who is. Don't make some guy the head of hockey operations and to babysit somebody.
Well,
make him general manager and let him make the decisions. You don't need this many bosses. Adams reports to this guy reports to this guy. No, you don't need. Find that guy that you want and put him in the position of general manager and let him run your team. I just don't see why you need to put somebody above another layer of bosses. I hate that idea. And if that's what you think he needs, then get rid of him and put that guy in as your general manager.
I appreciate where you're coming from on this. I think a lot of fans, and this would describe me at this point, Paul, thinking about them doing a thing that they have rarely, if ever, done. LaFontaine's the only recent example, and that lasted, a few months, as it turned out. It's more for me like, okay, you're going to make me sit in this bath of tepid water with like dirty soap. I'm just sitting here. This is my life. Kevin Adams cannot, for some unknown reason to all of us, be removed from the job. He is going to be the GM. Can I at least get him some help? Is all that I think I'm looking for. It's not like there'd be so many people, Paul. It's just one more person between Adams and the owner. And it might actually be a person whose opinions on hockey would warrant respect within the room of people that talk about these things. So I guess I'm just out of desperation thinking, at least give me some semblance. And I think whether it carries respect or not, some people in the league maybe would view it that way, and I could use any of that I can get my hands on right now because I just can't believe their reputation.
Mistake here. I mean, they made the mistake of bringing this. Kevin Adams should not be having a sixth year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Right.
So that's the mistake. Now, also, Lindy Ruff is going to have more input into the roster, so you could say Lindy Ruff is doing that a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not exactly the way a president of hockey operations would do it, but if Lindy Ruff says, I don't think Samuelsson is going to help us become better defensively, I want him gone, or somebody else. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying if that's what he decides, I think he's going to get that, where maybe that wasn't the case before. He could take that case to Kevin Adams, and Kevin Adams would think about it. I think now it's going to be more than Kevin Adams thinking about it. If there's a player that Lindy Ruff doesn't feel can help them win, that player is going to be gone. And so that's a bit of a change too.
Okay.
All right, Paul. Feel better. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Oh, there you go. Paul's appearances with us on the Wester Hotline are brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide, and by Raylox Honda Raylox. We got this.
I don't know where this puts me, but I'm between you two on this topic. And, I think I would do it. The hockey ops, I think I would do it, but I don't really believe in it.
Right.
I agree with Paul that, I don't need to have another level, but maybe the Sabres could use a name.
Right.
I mean, that seems obvious. No matter what the person's job would be, somebody that's won, somebody that's done it, whatever, that I think would look good on them. How about putting it that way? And Paul is also right. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's everything,
Right.
Adams is a first-time GM. He wouldn't be the first one to fail, but sometimes that works. It just depends on circumstances and who the person is. The most frustrating thing to me about the Sabres is the inaction.
That's it, exactly. That's why I say, out of frustration with where we are, what's a thing that could work that you have not really tried? That. You've not really given that much runway at all. And so I don't know if anything is, how different anything is over the last 8 years, 10 years, 14 years, if they have that person. But going this long without one and the results could get me to, sure, make your jokes about how many jobs Ken Holland has had, all right? But there's success there. There's some reason to think he knows what it looks like and smells like and tastes like and all that stuff. And I just don't have even the slight. I can't even smell Cheerios anymore. I got nothing in the air around here.
I smelled that Cheerio smell on the Skyway last night. That's not an unusual place.
That's not rare. No, that's pretty close. Yeah.
What's rare is me being on the Skyway.
Okay.
Route 5. I'm not often on Route 5, going home from St. Francis.
All right.
How about that story, huh?
Quite a ride.
Literally.
Boy, that Skyway sure is high.
That Skyway. And the Cheerio smell somehow pervades. Even with the factory right, basically under you.
Yes.
I meant to ask Paul if he has a Rockies jersey, a Colorado Rockies. Paul has a lot of jerseys. I was talking to my friend Ken Morrow and the Islanders, and we got into, this guy knows old games better than I do, and he got into the
Rockies, the hockey team.
The Colorado
you said
Rockies.
I'm thinking about the baseball team, and I'm over here thinking, why would Paul have a Colorado Rockies baseball jersey?
Sorry.
Okay, the hockey team, sure.
The conversation, I told him I've never enjoyed an Islanders game in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, not even from the dynasty? Like, no, I hated that team. They beat the Sabres, and I hated them. I said, if I had to watch one Islanders game ever, it would be the Lanny McDonald game, where the Leafs took them out in Game 7 on the island, because I loved the Leafs. So I'd watch that. And then we started talking about McDonald and the Rockies. That was the path. How about that story?
Now it adds up.
Now we're really cooking.
All right. See, kids, there used to be a hockey team in Denver called the Rockies. It's now the baseball team, so it could be a little confusing. But if you're a certain age, you remember the Colorado Rockies.
That would be a great jersey to own, like a real one, wouldn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Because, old school and all. I don't know what name I'd want. Maybe Rennie Robert. Didn't he play? He played for them.
He did. Yes, he did.
Who didn't play for the hockey Colorado Rockies? Matt Verderam, who writes for SI.com on the Chiefs and on the NFL. He joined us earlier to talk about their draft and how things are to be shaping up in the AFC as we continue along here this offseason. That's coming your way next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.